Hello, everybody. This is your right geek, honorary man king, and leader of the Awkward Cough Squad. Here once again with number one Marmaduke fan and Punch Machine. Today we are going to be discussing the third section of Denny O'Neill's magnificent Iron Man run. This section is going to be covering issues 183 to 193. How are you today, number one Marmaduke fan and Punch Machine?
I'm having fun. Thanks for having me on. And for those who missed it, I accidentally started playing backwards video behind the scenes. So hopefully I haven't summoned a demon onto the Right Geeks channel.
Yeah. Marmaduke is confirmed as a lizard. Well, I'm doing okay as well. I have not been trampled by any Canadians, so that's always a good thing. And yeah, I was really enjoying these comics. Actually, this is probably the most fun I've had with Iron Man comics so far. So you guys are in for a treat.
Me personally, I just love any time two guys have a fight and then they're instantly bestest frenzies again after having their big fat fights.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how it happens. That's
yeah. We're gonna conduct this stream the way we conducted all the others, which is basically just jumping around and talking about whatever occurs to us. But we are going to start with what number one Marmaduke fan alluded to here, which was the major conflict in this set of issues. And that is the conflict that starts to develop between Rhodey and Tony. So that's what Marm is talking about when he's talking about the guys having a fist fight and then immediately making up and becoming best friends again.
Okay, so do you want to just jump into that right away then? Because that actually takes a while to build up. I mean, if you want to do it first, that's fine.
I guess it's kind of like the overarching story, right? We get lots of little Rhodey adventures fighting the villain of the week, but that's where it terminates. Yeah,
it's the demon in the bottle for this episode. So
right, yeah. Oops, no, not slides. Share screen. Tab. Google Drive folder. Okay, there we go. All right, now we're gonna have actual. Okay. Yeah, so we're just gonna flip through the images that I have here. Let me try to zoom in a little bit.
It was neat how for a while they were foreshadowing that Rhodey. They spent a long time foreshadowing how Rhodey doesn't know how to work the full armor without Tony's help. And then kind of like in the middle of this situation, Tony's reintroduced. So we've actually built this up in previous issues as well.
Right. So we have here, once again, that he has lost his gauntlets because when he came back from Secret Wars, which will be a whole other stream potentially, he had this tech that was added to the armor that was kind of playing hell with it. Like he didn't know how to control it. So he basically had to get rid of the gauntlets so that he wouldn't accidentally like destroy Lower Manhattan without thinking about it, you know? So, So here we have him with his tech support trying to work out what he can work out in the armor. But we have here him admitting that I never did figure out all the tricks Tony put into the armor. So, yeah, this is once again picking up on the thing that's been going on ever since Rhodey became Iron Man, that him being a different person who is he's intelligent in his own way, and being a pilot, he has the skill, but because he's not Tony Stark, he doesn't have the inside knowledge of Tony Stark's technology. So he's doing the best he can. But again, he doesn't know exactly everything he can do with the armor. So he needs the support of his tech support coming in to help him.
Just a kid from Philly.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He's just a regular guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So down here we have. So I guess we got a problem. I can't hop around heroing half naked because he doesn't have his gauntlets. Any chance Mr. Stark can help us design new components? I'd rather not bug him. They say a man's first week of being sober is tough enough without any demands being made on him. So this is from 183, right after Tony has decided to get sober. And what's going on here is that Rhodey is starting to feel insecure about the fact that he doesn't understand Tony's armor. And so when the rest of his tech support is suggesting to him, well, maybe if we do see Tony, that will give him something constructive to do. He's like, no, I don't want Tony involved at all because he's feeling insecure about his own place in this position, basically.
I like this as a setup because we see he's sensitive about the topic of Tony before Tony comes in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is one of those things. I know you, Marmaduke, were mentioning this on Twitter earlier, and I kind of started to do a thread and then I stopped myself. But yeah, I think it has been set up quite well. Spoiler warning, this all does come to a head in a conflict later on in these episodes. But there's enough to build off of that, when it happens, it's quite shocking. It's like, oh my God, they just suddenly hate each other. But then you think back to incidents like this, like little tiny incidents throughout the rest of the run, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see they were cleverly building towards it. They were setting things up and having payoffs, like you might have in a story, oddly enough.
Right.
And I do like the fact that Rhodey's being presented as sort of a fish out of water here. I really do enjoy his take on Iron Man, because he is a great puncher, right? And that is, of course, very important to me. The ability to punch and the enthusiasm for punching. I give a mad. But what he has in enthusiasm, he does lack in that technical, scientific-y, engineering know-how that Tony has. So it's a nice juxtaposition between the ways that they go about it. He's definitely he's Iron Man, but he's not, right? He is his own character. And we really get that sense that he's not trying to replace Tony as Iron Man, right? He's not suddenly like, oh, I'm super special science guy, and aren't I smarter than Tony Stark? You all love me now, right, kids? It's not the Punchy thing. It's a whole brand new character that we can come to know and love. So it was a bit disconcerting to see him snapping like that at his friends, but it was disconcerting in a good way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and I think it helps that the characters react to him the way the audience is reacting. Man, Rhodey seems on edge lately. That was uncool, man.
Yeah. Right. So and we have also this this insecurity is also manifesting itself in physical symptoms, that he's having these terrible headaches. That was actually they were actually starting to build that up in the last segment, but we see this mentioned here again. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, God, but spoiler warnings, like the headaches aren't resolved in these 10 issues. I was going to ask you, Right Geek, if you happen to know, does this have any bearing? Is it related somehow to the issues we haven't read, right? Like that Elseworld, the other one, or is it something completely different? Although, on the other hand, since we haven't come to the end of this arc, like maybe I shouldn't ask. But what do you think? Is this one of those things like just wait and see, or is there more detail you can flesh out about his headaches and him? Because I know there is a theory that's brought up, but the theory doesn't actually pan out in like issue 190 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it turns out that the mention of the headaches does get followed up on and resolved in a later issue that will be in the fourth stream. So, okay. and that's basically what I can say about
that. Not delve too deeply into it.
Right. Yeah, we should probably wait and see on that one.
I like how there was like a fake solution offered to the headaches. Like you sometimes wonder, is that the writer trying to wrap it up and changing his mind? So the fake solution was Tony speculated that the helmet was made for Hit to analyze his brain patterns, so it could be interfering with Rhodey's brain patterns, and he fixes it, but then that doesn't make the headaches go away, and Rhodey is too tsundere to tell people what his problem is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can appreciate that, right? You know, that's one of those bro things too, right? You know, Rhodey resisted telling anybody about the headaches for several episodes, and it only gets dragged out of him basically against his will. And then when the headaches continue, he doesn't tell anybody. But that's believable, right? Like a guy like Rhodey's not going to be, you know, whining and telling people that he's getting headaches. He's just going to suck it up and keep soldiering on. So I like that aspect. I mean, it's a bit boneheaded when you're looking at it as a reader, but as a character, I really appreciated that. So.
I mean, we kind of saw one thing is we kind of saw Tony at his most boneheaded during the alcohol arc. So now we're kind of, and Rhodey was pretty competent and on top of things the whole time, right? So now it's kind of like the roles have switched. Now that Tony is sober, he's got to get back into like the big brother, you know, he's got to check his bro before his bro wrecks himself mode. And we're seeing now Rhodey doesn't have like alcoholism or drugs or anything. Really, the closest thing explaining it is the headaches. And I actually kind of noticed that Denny made a point of like underscoring he is having splitting headaches with pain screaming behind his eyeballs every time he's being a jerk, right? That's kind of like the closest we get to having like an excuse or an explanation for why Rhodey's being a bigger jerk than normal. He's literally in terrible pain.
Yeah, I mean, there's that like physical reason. But and Reiki, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I got the impression, you know, it is kind of a mirroring situation where they're like juxtaposing Rhodey's fall with Tony getting back on the wagon. But I do think there is an aspect of addiction here, and I think he's getting addicted to the suit just like Tony does. You know, Tony's suit addiction isn't that maladaptive. Like it's a little maladaptive, but compared to his boozing, it's not that bad. But for Rhodey, right, he doesn't have the boozing, but he goes for the suit much harder than Tony, and he doesn't have, you know, the amount of time or discipline or whatever to really acclimate himself to the suit. So I think his love for the really cool Iron Man suit is his addiction. It is his booze. And that's why we see him paralleling with Tony. But again, I could be wrong. So what do you think, Bright Geek? Is this addiction? Is this just the headaches?
I think that's an excellent analysis, and I would further add that I think that this might also be a reflection of some unresolved resentment left over from the fact that Tony basically abdicated on his responsibilities and left Rhodey holding the bag, essentially.
Yeah, like the Blue Falcon factor that I was talking about in previous streams, right?
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
Yeah, just to recap for people that didn't catch it, it's a reference to people in the military who kind of shirk their duties, and you get mad at them because they get you in trouble. And at first, you know, they might be your friends, but if they Blue Falcon you enough, you wind up really resenting them and really hating them. So yeah.
Also, we have to take a shot every time every time what's her name Clytemnestra gets called a cis, we every single time we have to take a drink.
Oh God, then we're gonna wind up just like Tony. No, I disavow.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me, one of the Tumblr girls came up with, here's a drinking game for earlier Iron Man comics, and it was like every time he says, "Oh no, I can't get married to this woman because I could die at any time." Yeah, it was this whole list of things that happened in those early comics that we've talked about together, Marm, and so, and so they posted the rules to this. Or he swoons in the middle of a fight because his battery is dying, stuff like that. And somebody like reblogged it with the comment, "This is a good way to die," because it's like, oh my gosh, this is gonna give you alcohol poisoning if you play this game.
Yeah, I mean, he was even running out of battery power in all the fights in this run too. Like, I think every one of them had some kind of battery power issue, but.
It's good though. Well, that's one of the elements of the early Iron Man comics that I really like, which I think I've mentioned in lots of previous videos. Because to me, I've always interpreted it as this is a very, very subtle way to imply chronic illness without being explicit about it, right?
Yeah.
The fact that after a certain point, you just cannot go on, and you actually have to stop and rest and recharge, so to speak. Hello, Acceptance with Joy. Thank you for stopping by to listen. So we've been talking about how Rhodey's sort of heel turn here in this segment of the run, and how there's a lot of elements that are coming into play. As Punchy says, it seems to be playing as sort of an armor addiction, which I think is an accurate analysis. I also added to that there is underlying resentment going on, because while Tony was boozing and Bowery gutters, he basically abdicated all of his responsibilities, leaving Rhodey holding the bag, so to speak. And then, of course, Marm pointed out that he's also in terrible pain because of these headaches that are coming from some unknown source. So all of those are there as explanations for why he's suddenly becoming snappish and hostile with his friends. And I think it's especially noteworthy and a sign of Denny O'Neil's talent as a writer that he doesn't make the other two elements really all that explicit until he needs to. Like the resentment of Tony, I don't think he really makes explicit at all. I don't think he makes it explicit at all. I think he just lets the reader understand that this is what's going on, which I think is really nice. It's much better from a writer's perspective to present that kind of a personal conflict in a subtle sort of a subtle, understated, oblique way than to just come right out and have the character say, "I hate you because you left me holding the bag," right? That making things on the nose like that it's not as effective as far as the writing is concerned. So the fact that Denny O'Neil avoids doing that while also making it clear, if you're more of the analytical type of reader, that that's what's going on, I think that really does highlight how skillful he is. As far as the armor addiction aspect, that does become a little more explicit later, which we will talk about more when we get to the next stream. But again, as Punchy observed, it's something that is being built up in a very gradual way.
Okay, well, I might have actually cheated. I just apologies. I might have actually cheated because I did read a bit a bit ahead. So I'm not sure if I was drawing on like later things, but I think it does. I think he has a speech somewhere in these 10 issues where he mentions how much he loves the thrill of having the armor. So
the one where he says, I've earned the right to be Iron Man," or a different speech?
there might be two too. I mean, there's probably a bunch, but I remember there's at least one in this 10 one, and yeah, that could be one of them. So
Oh yeah, so this is Tony coming by while Rhodey is having a fight as Iron Man.
Yeah, so Tony gets to see him in action, and it seems like it's a bit of a melancholy moment for Tony. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Can I help? No, it has to be his show. Yeah. Yeah, this brings back memories. Surprising amount of them are good. So the other thing that's going on besides the other thing that's going on in this section, besides Rhodey's quote unquote fall, so to speak, is Tony grappling with his identity in a sense. The fact that like for a while here, he is resisting the idea that Iron Man is who he really is. He has kind of convinced himself. He's kind of convinced himself that being Iron Man was the thing that made him a drunk. And so when the possibility that he could retake that role, that he could re-enter that role and become Iron Man again, is something that he really, really does not want to consider. He feels like the Iron Man persona is something that he's been hiding behind, and it's something that has the stress of that is something that allowed him to become a drunk. So we have that going on in the background as well. That's basically the second conflict that's going on in these 10 issues.
What do you think about that conflict? Do you think that's fair or not fair?
Is that a question for Reiki?
Yeah.
I guess for both of you, because I have some thoughts on it too, but you guys go for it.
I think that Tony is a little bit confused, in my opinion, because as we've said in prior streams, we actually think Iron Man is what allows him to be who he actually is. But so I think that Tony's perception of the situation is in fact mistaken. I think that that in fact Iron Man is who he really is. It's the thing that enables him to be who he really is, and that his resistance to it is an element of confusion on his part as to what actually was the source of his issue.
I thought it was kind of interesting how this theme was set up in The Descent into Alcoholism when he talked about his armor as a protection or a shell, and now we're sort of something we picked up on or thought about is the armor an analogy for his alcoholism is now something Denny's trying to sort of deliberately make into a theme. And I actually kind of like Right Geek's explanation that maybe Tony's looking for an excuse, right? Or maybe he's like misidentified what the problem is. There is like this theme of armor as adrenaline rush, armor as escapism versus armor as heroic purpose. And I think there's a really neat contrast where we've seen Rhodey, hesitantly take up the armor to become a hero, and we'll see Tony hesitantly take up the armor to become a hero again. And I think that this fear that the armor is creating his problem is what sets up that's the build up to the payoff of Tony being forced by circumstances to become Iron Man again.
Yeah. So would you say it's kind of one of those reluctant leader kind of archetypes, right? Like the best kind of leaders are the ones that don't want the power. If you do want the power, then you're going to wind up being, you know, like a Justin Trudeau or something. Like it's the people that are hesitant that wind up doing the most good, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. I mean, I'd say because I obviously I agree with Right Geek. Like we've been over that aspect of the armor before. I would say that there is some aspect of the armor that's maladaptive for Tony. But I think it's not the armor so much as his reliance on the armor, right? Like the fact that he needs the armor to protect him and make him feel safe, and only then can he come out and be his true self. I think Tony would be a lot happier and a lot healthier if he was able to be his true self without the armor. So in that sense, I think the armor is a little maladaptive, but it's not the armor that's making him bad, or that's driving him to drink or anything. It's just the armor is helping him come out. And gosh, wouldn't it be nice if he could come out of his shell without the armor too, kind of thing. So that's my sit down talk with Tony if I ever had a chance.
Yeah. So yeah, because in my opinion, what actually drives the alcoholism has more to do with childhood trauma and just a general temperamental tendency towards depression than from the armor specifically. But it is something that if you look at all of Tony's canon, it is something that he tends to do. He tends to when he's having a mental health issue of some kind, a lot of times he will externalize it into the armor and blame the armor for all of his problems. So it's not off brand for him, certainly, to say that it's the armor that did it, instead of realizing it's something it's the mental health problems that he has deep inside of him, and not necessarily the armor itself. The armor is just as Punchy has observed, kind of a manifestation. It's a manifestation of the mental issues, in the sense that he feels he needs to wear it. He feels he needs that shell in order to actually be his true self, and to actually protect himself from the outside world. In a sense, that's a manifestation of what's going on, but it's not the source of what the issue is.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like how he is with women too, isn't it? You know, just I mean, not specifically with the armor, but like with his heart condition, right? You know, like he'll blame his heart condition. He'll be like, "Oh, it's just a heart condition," blah 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 blah. And no, it's not. It's you. It's the personality and the fact that you're scared and you don't want to come out of your shell. But you know, he's very good at deflecting these things, you know, and finding other ways to explain away the fact that he's a simp right now, and that he's got to man up.
And well, it's interesting though that when the character was originally created, the choice was made to give him specifically a heart condition. I think that that's a very deliberate metaphor for what is actually wrong with him, you know.
It's a heart, quote unquote, condition.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So it's when he says it's my heart condition, he's right, but not in the way he thinks. Like it's the quote unquote heart condition. It's the problem. It's the problem with his metaphorical heart, his spiritual heart, rather than the physical heart necessarily.
Actually, it's interesting you bring that up, because I had a question, possibly for later, but I guess if you want, I could ask it now, because with all this stuff with Rhodey, right? Like at this point, Rhodey. At this point in the story, specifically, Rhodey is basically Iron Man, right? Like Tony doesn't want anything to do with Iron Man. Rhodey's actually doing pretty well as Iron Man. You know, and again, as my own personal bias, I think he's a better Iron Man because he's really good at punching. my question would be, because this really reads like it could easily be a current year Iron Man story, right? Getting rid of Tony and bringing in the brand new Iron Man. Do you happen to know? Because there were like months or maybe even years between all these different sagas and episodes, right? So was there a plan to actually replace Tony with Rhodey, or was it kind of a we'll just try to test waters and find out, or did they plan to bring Tony back all along? Is there like behind the scenes drama with that, or?
I am not an expert on behind the scenes drama. I don't think so. However, I don't think that they actually were thinking of replacing Tony entirely. I think that all along, just based on how the entire run is structured, I think all along, Denny O'Neil intended for Tony to come back. I think he intended to basically write a fall and rise story, while at the same time, while Tony was fallen, of course, we needed someone else to fill it in the Iron Man roles, so that's where Rhodey came in. But I could be wrong about this, but my interpretation, just based on how the entire run is structured, I think the intention was all along for Tony to come back, and to just have this grand story over 18 months or so of him falling and then rising back up and ultimately triumphing. I think that was the original plan.
Okay, so it wasn't like oh god, nobody likes this, let's quickly retool or anything. That's good to know. Also,
no. The sense that I got from some of the letters that are in the back of my physical issues is that it was kind of half and half. Some people are like, I really like Rhodey. He's good in the Iron Man role. And then some were like, oh, I hope Tony gets into the armor again soon. Or I hope he gets back on the wagon. I'm really worried about him. So and what's interesting is that none of those letters did I really see any like hard hostility in either direction. I think it was just, there were people who were like, yeah, Rhodey's cool. I like him. He's good. And then others were like, oh gosh, Tony comes back soon. So
yeah, I think this is a great example of why not both kind of situation. I mean, Rhodey is a really interesting character, and he really does do a good job of selling himself as a hero in his own right. And Tony, right. Of course, everyone likes Tony. Nobody doesn't like Tony. Everyone wants him to win in the end. So you can have both. I mean, come on,
yeah. Well, I think that's why ultimately Rhodey became War Machine, because in the late 80s, because they realized that that there were a lot of people in the audience that liked him in that armored hero role. So they gave him an armored hero identity, right?
Really? I think there weren't too many racists or Nazis or anything reading comic books back then.
Do you think that Tony had a bit of a Buddhist influence at this point? Because I noticed they quoted the Buddha at the end of his alcohol arc, and he has a very, I almost say like passive, like non-resistant role whenever Rhodey's given him hell throughout this whole arc.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that that's a function of his Buddhism. I think that's a function of Tony's guilt. I think that's Tony saying, yeah, you know what? I deserve every bit of fire you're going to throw in my direction, because I was a complete asshole who, walked out on all my responsibilities and left everybody in the lurch. Right. So I don't think it's necessarily a deliberate Buddhist aspect. I think it's just him being willing to take it because he knew exactly how bad he screwed up.
Is he Buddhist? Has he ever been like a Buddhist or anything, or?
No, canonically, he's an atheist.
Okay, well, because the thing that I was thinking, because I picked up on that as well, and I'm glad Marmaduke just mentioned it. What I was wondering if that's like an aspect of Denny's Buddhism, or whatever Denny happened to be, because again, it's one of these things like the kind of new age 1970s references that are peppered throughout, like Ishtar. They have the Zodiac villains that show up, who I believe were they created for this run, or were they created by Denny O'Neil or something?
No, the Zodiac's been around for a while. They were in like the Avengers comics in the 70s. Yeah.
Okay. Well, still, like, you know, there's all these different like the Buddha quotes and stuff. So I'm wondering if Denny's like clued into that sort of, you know, Age of Aquarius hair kind of stuff. But you know, I don't know.
It's possible. I think probably a lot of creative people in that time period were probably clued into that. So
especially atheists too. Atheists were really big in Buddhism.
Yeah. So the influences are definitely there, but the intention I don't think is really to say that Tony is Buddhist in any way. Actually, like much later in canon, there's a reference to the fact. There's a reference. It was in Matt Fraction's run. There's a reference to Tony being in AA, and of course, one of the things in AA is the recognition of a higher power, right? And Tony says in this one comic that I don't really believe in a god of any kind. So what I chose as my higher power were my fellow heroes that I admire, like Captain America and Thor and all those people.
Hang on, isn't Thor a literal god, though? I mean, you can just say, yeah, it's Thor.
Yeah, he's Thor. That's what's kind of funny, and they've actually put a lampshade on it sometimes. When Tony says, you know, I don't believe in a god or gods, and then he will say kind of jokingly, yes, I understand that Thor is a literal god, but I still don't like.
I guess he means like he doesn't believe in like a monotheistic creator deity or something, right? I guess.
Yeah.
Which in the context of this universe would have to be like Stan Lee or Jack Kirby.
I don't believe in Stan Lee. And then cut to like a panel of Stan
I don't believe in Stan Lee.
Cloud. Smirking knowingly as he takes lines in his book or something. You know, I don't know. That might be fun. I always like Jack Kirby better than Stan Lee, though. So let's make it Kirby instead.
Well, I think 4 different people are actually credited with creating Tony. So one of them being Stan Lee, one of them being Jack Kirby. It was like the 4 guys together. So. Yeah.
It's kind of fun that these Zodiac gangsters show up. They're very goofy villains, and then they just torment Tony and friends on their road trip to California. And apparently, Tony and friends just get far enough away from them that the Zodiac gives up, and we don't see the Zodiac guys anymore.
Okay, hold on. Not Evie Joy is making a comment about a comic cover where Thor is holding the God delusion, looking annoyed. Are you guys familiar with that? I didn't know.
I'm not familiar with that. No.
I'm trying to find info on it.
No, I haven't seen that one. I haven't read a lot of Thor comics, so.
Do you know what issue it was or anything?
Any info from Evie? Yeah, that sounds fun. I always love good Fedora jokes.
Which it was. Yeah.
Because that sounds like a lot of fun. I'd like to. I'd like to see if there was a Dawkins Thor crossover. All right. Well, Evie can catch up.
Tony visiting Rhodey. Yeah. So this is Tony visiting Rhodey, and so far Rhodey's actually being pretty friendly, but that of course changes as these issues go on. Let's see here.
Oh, and one question I had for you, right, Keek? In that first issue, I noticed you didn't have any of the panels, but did you catch the Fujoshi bait? Because that was like all I could think about in the first issue.
Which Fujoshi bait was that? There's so many.
Well, yeah, there's many in that issue, but you know,
like the cover. This whole run. And this whole run, there's quite a few. Yeah. What do you mean
so
precisely?
Well, like the cover, for example, and there's that panel where he's holding the guy close and he's talking about having to turn on his unibeam or something. You know, they're like bear hugging each other and.
Okay, yeah.
Just little things like that.
Okay.
I mean, the main one is his date, which I forget which issue that is. I think that's a couple issues from now. The date was very telling.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, the date was after the pies. The date was issue 189, so we can get to that later. But
yeah.
By the way, since they're talking about Tony giving up drinking on this page, I like how they still sneak in references to how for Tony it's a daily struggle. And it's like obvious things like he sees a bar as he's out looking for Rhodey, or they're fighting and he lands in a winery. But they make the point that this is an ongoing thing for Tony.
Right.
The sweet air untainted by alcohol part.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that one issue when he falls into the winery, that was very good.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I found Evie's reference. She says it was Avengers comic, and it looks like it's something about a Secret Santa, the Avengers Secret Santa.
The awful gifts. I gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. And Thor winds up getting the God delusion. So. Oh, and Tony gets a book by Obadiah Stane. So we know what that's a reference.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So this is still 183, and this is Tony hooking up with Rhodey, Cly, and Irwin here, and agreeing to go to California with them because there's nothing left for me here. I need a change of life, which is that's actually something that a lot of addicts say when they're in recovery, is that they can't go back to their old environment. They have to find a new environment to recover in, right? So very much reflective of a realistic recovery, right? Let's see. Flipping through here.
I'm not sure California is the best place to go though, just because it's California. But
but they've got that newfangled Silicon Valley.
But
yeah, he wants to go be in Silicon Valley, but at least they don't go to New York, so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
Klein knows all about New York.
Okay, so on this page, this I think is the next issue when they're being harassed by the Zodiac on their road trip to California. I captured this page because looks like those horoscope heavies are at it again. And then Tony says, perhaps you should have questioned that Aries character. Is that what you would have done? Maybe. So there's that suggestion of tension between the two of them because of Rhodey's insecurity and of course Tony's guilt. So what we have in these issues is we have like the interaction of Rhodey's insecurity in the Iron Man role now that Tony is sober again, coupled with Tony's guilt because he recognizes that as I've been saying before, that he left everyone in the lurch while he was boozing in Bowery gutters. I believe he uses that exact phrase at some point. So, so
the
that's why
dramatic lighting helping sell the seriousness of the moment.
Right, exactly.
Do you guys think this is something that could have been solved with a quirky lecture on privilege and toxic masculinity? Right, like just sit him down and just be like, "Hey, Rhodey, I have to talk to you about toxic masculinity." Or do you think things worse?
That's the problem. Is then they both be just checking each other's privilege the whole time. Rhodey has armor privilege.
Well, no, I mean you get somebody like the cat woman to come in and give the talk, obviously, but
oh yeah, Tigra. Well, the problem is if you bring in Tigra, the male gaze would stop them from listening to anything she had to say.
Well, okay. I don't know. You just have her overeat for a few episodes, and then she can come in and something like that. I don't know. We can make it work. We can make it work for Netflix.
I guess another neat way they build up Rhodey's starting to lose his cool is we have a series of fights where Rhodey's not happy with his performance, and he's doing well at first. It's just he's not catching all the bad guys, or he can't save the truck in his copy of Kung Fu Teachers in the Kindergarten of Doom, right? So he's got like a lot of things he's annoyed about.
Yeah, well, can I say that was really traumatic and traumatizing. Losing all the Kung Fu films, like as a Kung Fu fan, as a Punchy fan, that really hit me hard, and I wasn't sure I could go on after that.
So it was actually combining character development. We know Rhodey likes Kung Fu movies with humor. They're very goofy Kung Fu movies, and then actually using them as a plot point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the real strengths about all of these like little Rhodey sub episodes and Rhodey subplots and things, is that it's silly and it's funny at the same time as being very serious and very somber, right? Like he strikes a really good balance. He's almost like the OG Deadpool or something, I guess. But
Deadpool before Deadpool was shoved into everything, right?
Yeah, he's the cool Deadpool before he overstayed his welcome, kind of thing.
So this capture I have here is when the bridge fails, and Rhodey decides to catch the vehicle that has Urin and Cly in it, and lets the truck in which Tony is sitting fall into the water, right? And he has logic. He has logic in his thoughts, but there are two lives at stake here, and Tony's alone in the truck. So he's doing it on kind of a utilitarian calculus. 2 is better than 1, right? But you have to wonder, like, is there a kind of unconscious element of if Tony disappears, then maybe I wouldn't feel this insecurity. It obviously wouldn't be conscious. He wouldn't be thinking consciously. That's the issue. But maybe very deep in his subconscious, if we got rid of Tony, then my problems would be over, sort of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be fair. I think that would be going through his head. He does mention having thoughts like that several times during the run. And he says he doesn't know where it comes from and that it just kind of hit him. But I think that might be the. It's
basically like his id coming up. It's the evil thoughts that your normal human being has, right? No matter who you are, you're going to have those less than praiseworthy thoughts in the back of your head that you have to keep under control, right?
Evie's
does
asking
Rhodey like Gymkhana?
I hope so. Yeah. If he actually no, wait a minute. When was this? This was written in '83, right? I don't think Gymkhana was out in '83. So
83, 84. Yeah.
Gymkhana was like 85, I think. Yeah. Gymkhana 1985. So he wouldn't have known about it. But I'm sure he did later on when he got to see it. So
yeah.
Maybe that's what he was doing in California. Maybe he wrote the script for Gymkhana. That's my head kind of
one of his side hobbies, yeah. right, so this is more. If Tony survived the fall, he doesn't need this junk dumped on his head. And then he realized, oh, I don't have my repulsor. And then he does try to go back for Rhodey, but oh no, Tony's gone. Here's kind of a funny thing that sort of pops up in the later half of this run is the number of times that it looks like, oh no, Tony is gone forever. Something terrible has happened to him. And then he just like appears like, I escaped. And it's like, he's living up to the Invincible name, basically. Oh, he got dumped in a truck in the middle of a body of water, but he escaped. And later on, he's going to end up in the middle of the ocean fighting Godzilla, right? But somehow he survives. And I don't think that's necessarily a spoiler because we all know he survives.
Oh yeah, I mean obviously
so,
he's alive. I mean this is the main continuity, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah. So, but I just thought I find it kind of funny. The number it's enough to be noticeable that we have that element of something terrible happens to Tony. Oh no, he's lost. Oh, he's back. He found some way to get out of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a comic. You do have to have tension and drama, and I mean, if you were reading this back in the day, right, you wouldn't necessarily know that he was going to, especially if you're a little kid, right? I remember when I was a little kid reading comic books, I was like, oh God, is Batman going to die? Is Iron Man going to survive this? Because I didn't know. You just assume that it's real life. They might get hurt, but yeah. Oh, phew! Thank God, there he is.
By the way, I think it's neat how they keep highlighting that Iron Man's missing his repulsor, since that's going to become an important plot point later when Rhodey and Tony are fighting about the repulsor rays. So just good reminders each issue of how like Rhodey's not fully equipped. Yeah. He doesn't know how to work the full Iron Man suit, and he's not fully equipped yet. So they're just putting the important plot points in plain sight.
Yeah, so oh thank God, there he is. He managed to swim to shore and climb up the cliff. Yeah. Yeah, there's the mention of
he doesn't seem very wet to me though. Is that a plot hole? Is that one of my my no prizes? Should I figure out a reason why he's not wet?
I feel like the otters just needed to add a drip there. Like his hair looks a little bedraggled, right?
Yeah.
No more bedraggled than it usually does. I mean, I would think like if he was wet, like his jacket would be sticking to him and be able to see through his shirt, and the hair would be all matted on his forehead, right? I mean,
that's one of those things where like the assistant editor, the editor would like redline it and draw a circle and say, "Make him look wetter." I want puddles.
Yeah, just have him like dragging a puddle behind. I mean, you don't have to be that detailed because it's it's just like a fun comic book for kids. But at least have him like dripping some puddles behind him. It'd be kind of funny too. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, don't help me. I'm just dripping puddles everywhere. Thank you."
There's the mention of my kung fu teachers in the Killer Kindergarten.
And Bruce Lee's chiropodist.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think chiropodist is a reference to like a New Yorkese mispronunciation of chiropractor. I don't know if there's anything more specific about the reference than that, but it works. It's a silly random gag, but it's I think it sells. It sells because it sells Rhodey as someone who loves cheesy movies.
Okay. The internet says it's a medical professional who specializes in the diagnosis and treatment of foot disorders. So probably someone that kicks, I guess. Maybe he's treating Bruce Lee for kicking disease. I don't know. I don't think Bruce Lee ever did a chiropodist movie, though. So, oh well, actually, here's a Dr. Bruce Lee, who's a chiropodist in Irving, Texas. So, but that guy's modern, so that's, I don't know. It's probably just meant to be silly.
So this capture is a moment where Tony makes a suggestion. Maybe we should go to the authorities. This is in the next issue. And Rhodey snaps back. Let's remember who the hero is, okay? I say we give the young lady a chance to produce the proof she mentioned. And since I'm wearing the tin suit, we do it my way. So again, we have this subtle indication of Rhodey's insecurity now that Tony is around and back and sober. Let's see. Just flipping through the captures here.
I like the subplot of them rescuing a hot blonde because they think she's innocent of murder, and they're saving her from the lynch mob, and then she ends up being guilty of the murder.
Don't trust.
Yeah,
thought.
Exactly. No, never trust the thought. Yeah.
It's the Belle Delphine factor again. He's a sucker for the pretty ones, and he shouldn't be.
All right, so this is Rhodey getting stuck in this field right here. Some hero I am, some washout, trapped like a fly in a web, unable to do anything except watch my friends drown. Meanwhile, his friend. What's that?
Sorry, what is that a field of? Is that like bubble yum or something?
Magic pink comic book energy.
It
creates an electromagnetic field that what doesn't. Okay, and they had some like explanation from it, like they've used it before, or some other issue or something.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I don't know. It's just pink field of stuff. We're going with.
It says Werner von Kemp should have stuck to biophysics. What was that? Von Kemp, Aquarius said he devised the gimmick that's holding Iron Man. He was a biophysicist who switched to electromagnetic field research and. Field research, yes, there may be a chance. Rhodey, activate the armor's broadcast unit. Okay, done. Now tune it to the highest frequency possible. So this is Tony Tony helping him actually escape, right?
Yeah, it's Lieutenant Commander Tony in the Star Trek moment of the episode.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Reverse polarities on the propulsor blasts and.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's basically directing him. Good, now switch on your unibeam and move it through all faces as quickly as you can. I see what you're getting at, Tony. That machine's battery can't be too powerful, and if Iron Man can generate enough interference, maybe it will jam the unit, overload it. Keep at it, Rhodey. You can do it, Jim. Beneath the impassive gleaming surface of the faceplate, there is agony. Pain rages within James Rhodes' skull. Pain that seems to expand and intensify and fill every atom of his body. Still, he concentrates on mentally manipulating the cybernetic circuitry in the helmet. He cannot ignore the hurt, but he will not let it deter him. A few moments ago, he doubted that he is a hero. But then the plan succeeds, basically.
So the narrator knows that Rhodey's a hero, even though poor Rhodey doesn't know.
Right, yeah, exactly. Then, I'm free. And Clyde's submerged, but he gets everyone free.
Not the waifu.
Yeah. Thanks, I was beginning to get just a little worried here. All part of the service, lady. Anybody want to whistle chorus of Unchained Melody? Despite the fact that I just nearly drowned, my mouth's too dry to whistle. Ha ha ha, where are you going, Jim? To catch Aquarius in crowd, to prove I'm not totally useless.
By the way, so Aquarius has got to be... Aquarius is an absolutely fabulous villain. Like, it's not enough for him to kill Iron Man. He has to kill Iron Man as a work of art.
Yeah.
Well, there does seem to be a lot of like art themes in these episodes.
Yeah.
The termite guy really springs to mind too. I've been waiting to use him against you, Marmaduke. Like next time you post a Jane meme or something, like throw some termite memes away. I haven't found a good time to do it yet, but there does seem to be a lot of like art references in this stuff. So.
I need my mountain. Yeah.
Yeah. But we see to prove I'm not totally useless. So we see this. We see once again the insecurity cropping up. Even though he was able to get them out of there, the fact that Tony basically had to talk him through it and tell him how to use the elements of the armor to get them out of there, it once again activates that insecurity that he may soon be losing this place as Iron Man, right?
Right. Now, it's for some of these, I was thinking they need to have a 30-minute conversation, right? And then the fight ends up being the 30-minute conversation. It's sort of the fact that the resentment is unstated is what lets it go on for a few issues. It's a little cheesy, but I actually think it's still kind of believably done. Like they're not having like knockdown drag out fights. It's mostly just like angry feelings and sort of subtle tense moments where they feel like they're mad at each other, but they're not sure why.
Yeah, he sounds upset. Well, I don't think Tony is mad though at any point. Once
right.
again,
I think it's Rhodey. It's a bit of a one-sided thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but and then Tony is just like, "Ouch, that hurts." But you know what? I'm just gonna accept it passively because I feel like I deserve it, right? So.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of masochistic, especially at this point.
Yeah.
So he just takes it. It's a pitcher and catcher situation, I guess.
By the way, Punchy, you ruined another one of the. We were long past it, but there was like a panel in the first issue where he's interrogating the guy, and he just lightly puts his finger under the guy's chin while he's interrogating him. And I just thought, dang you, Punchy, you made this whole comic gay for me. No,
yeah, I'm telling you, all over the place. I mean, especially with Rhodey.
I was actually seriously considering adding to the description of the stream. Let's see how many things Punchy can make gay.
I don't want to. I really don't want to, but it's difficult not to see it, especially with Rhodey. Like Tony seems fine. Tony seems like a simp. He's beta, but Rhodey's definitely questionable, and I think there's a little bit of intent there because it happens too often. Yeah, I mean, which issue is this? Is this coming up to the to his date, or
I
think
didn't put down issue number. I was just taking captures willy nilly.
Okay.
Right, but he gets nervous and he can't give her a good time at the date. Now it's completely G-rated. Like they're fully dressed.
G-rated. Yeah. I mean, there's like a time skip, but then after the time skip, they're still fully dressed, and it's like nothing happens. But it's strongly implied that they tried to do something and he wasn't able to perform. Also, she just happens to be the one woman with shorter hair than he has. So that was kind of sus as well. So you find the manliest woman you can, and you have a date that you can't perform at. I mean, I
mean, obviously, the real reason he couldn't perform is because of the stress that he was under. But
he was too stressed to sit around and have a pleasant conversation, fully dressed. Yeah,
it's true stress because he's having domestic issues with his chief romance guy. So,
This was nicely done, by the way,
okay.
of Tony just putting on the helmet for a second, and that being kind of like the first moment of Rhodey consciously realizing he doesn't like seeing Tony in the armor.
Right, right. Yeah, it's not rational, maybe not even sane, but I hated seeing Stark with the helmet on. Hated it. Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I captured that page.
Yeah, that was another.
Sometimes when I flip through these later, it's like, why did I capture this again? Oh yeah, that's why.
That was another one of the captures I had. I mean, I had the Kung Fu movies captured, and I had the cute henchwoman captured because she was cute. And I had that, hated it thing because that's a good character development part. Lets you know what's coming. Actually, which is that past? Is that past the bird fight? The pie, or are we getting to that still?
The Brothers Grimm? I don't think we're there yet, because I think that's after they set up shop. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not think I captured the bird fight, but I didn't capture the bird fight because I was focusing more on Rhodey's character development and Tony's character development. But yeah,
pies at him. Come on, that's. I mean, character.
But yeah, they throw blackbird pies at him. Yeah.
Bird pies are the real deal here. I mean, that's the important stuff.
That's another thing that Civil War took from us.
Yeah.
Fairy tale themed bad guys, yeah.
Fairy tale themed bad guys, yes. We're off to a good start, I think. So this is them starting to set up the new company, right? Whoops. Why is it doing that? Okay. Now can we rest a bit? Sure, but first, she said the armor's repulsors aren't working. Let me take a look. I might be able to jury rig something until we can afford equipment. But Roy's resistant to that. No need for that. You're tired. Why don't you watch some tube instead? So again, we have Tony's just trying to help, right? He's just trying to be helpful. He's not really trying to get back in the armor because, as we've mentioned before, he doesn't really want to get back into the armor at this point. But he's not saying that to Rhodey. So Rhodey thinks he's trying to get back into that Iron Man role again, and he feels insecure about that. Let's see. What else do we have here?
So at what point does it dawn on him that they can both be like Iron Man kind of superheroes? Because it would seem that would be a simple solution they could just come up with on the fly. Like, hey, we've got all these different suits of armor. Like, you can make like a whole army of Iron Men. So why don't you just both be Iron Men? I mean, is that just they just kind of they need the drama or what?
I mean, obviously in the late 80s, they do basically say, yes, both of them can be armored heroes, right?
I mean, because the thing is that I can see like right now in the story as it stands, right? You're not going to want Tony in an Iron Man suit because he's still recovering from the alcoholism and he's out of shape and it might be disastrous. So keep away from the Iron Man suit. But as far as being afraid of it, I mean, I guess hatred and resentment and the dark parts of a man's soul aren't really rational. But this does seem particularly irrational, because he can just have two suits, have both of them have suits, right? I don't know.
But I think the irrationality is the point, though. So
now, is Rory starting to make quips about Tony's alcoholism at this point, or is that something that he started building up later? I think at this point they're like saying to him, "Do you think it's a good idea for you to go off on your own?" And he says, "I don't think he's starting to, but eventually he does build up to that point." Yeah,
he does build up to that point. Yeah. And I know those are definitely in my captures for sure. So yeah, so here, where are you heading, Jim? The oil rig. Where else would I be going? He's going after Vibro, I think. This is one of the Vibro issues.
Yeah.
You really think that's a good idea? Yeah. So this is Tony. Just good. He's not intending to piss Rhodey off, but he does. You really think that's a good idea to interfere without knowing exactly what the situation is? All we have are a few scraps of information from the newscasts. And then Rhodey says, "Listen, Tony, I'm handling the hero chores these days. You might want to write that down someplace so you remember it." Sure. And then as he's walking up, there I go again. There I go again, mouthing off to my best friend, the man who made me what I am today. You're all class, Mr. Rhodes.
For Vibro, do you have any close-ups of his face, or are we going to get to like close-ups of his face?
I'm not sure if I do. I don't remember if I have close-ups of him or not.
Okay, well, just anybody watching the stream, if you could look up a close-up of Vibro's face, like on Google or something, you know, because I think it's really hilarious that they have this supervillain who looks like that, who is basically the physical manifestation of California. Like that's his supervillain power, is he is the physical manifestation of California, and you know, just the way he looks.
Gets power from the fault, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, he draws his power from the San Andreas fault, and you know, he's Mr. California, and it's great. It's I don't know if that was like a subtle jab at California, or if that was just, you know, something a fun coincidence, but I thought he was interesting. So.
Oh yeah, I did get the frisbee capture. Hey, okay. So later, Tony, you were saying something earlier about fixing the repulsors. Maybe that'd be a good idea. So he actually like relents a little bit and realizes, yeah, I need after I tried to fight Vibro, yeah, probably having repulsors would be a good idea. So then Tony says, okay, let me take a look. These aren't the gloves I built. What did you do to them? It's a long story. In a nutshell, they got replaced by some weird alien tech that wouldn't work on Earth. Hey, why am I sounding so defensive? I didn't do anything he wouldn't have. Well, can you do it or not? Sure. I'll need a few things. My toolkit, a portable radio, a coil of copper wire, a thermometer, and a frisbee. So, I know
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a frisbee.
So yes, I do have that in my collection. Yeah, I know, Mom, that you tweeted that, so I know you appreciated that. But of course, that I also captured that page because that was again Rhodey saying, "Why do I keep snapping at Tony? Why am I so defensive? What the hell's wrong with me?" Right? Frisbee for the capacitance reverb effect. Oh, of course. I was like, Tony suddenly has become MacGyver, right?
Yeah, he's Star Trek MacGyver, but and it's interesting how Rhodey gets really resentful of it and stomps off about it, you know. Like Tony.
But then he keeps thinking to himself, I shouldn't badmouth them like that. They're good people. They're my friends. It's just when I see Tony playing with the suit, I get a little crazy. Yeah. All right, come on. Sometimes my computer is slow. Ah, here we go. I won't say repulsors are as good as new, but they'll work. How exactly did you rebuild them? This might have been another MacGyver moment here. Oh, yeah. It was basically a matter of borrowing energy from other parts of the armor, morally. I'm not sure of the exact terminology, but I do know that armor like the back. I do know that armor like the back of my hand. You ought to. You built it. What you did was apply That's a little blurry. 8 matrix theory to circuitry, and that, Mr. Tony Stark, is absolutely brilliant, if you say so. So that actually gets to another thing that Marm, you observed on Twitter, that Tony is not a theoretical scientist. He doesn't know like the academic theory behind the things he's doing. What he is instead is an engineer who just has a natural a talent for understanding and putting together machinery, right?
Exactly. So he is a genius, but he's limited in what he can do. Yeah.
He's a savant.
Right. Yeah. So that's why. Yeah. So I retweeted you and said, yes, basically Reed Richards is supposed to be the theoretical scientist, and then Tony is supposed to be the guy who applies. He's the engineer or the mechanic that just has the knack for understanding how circuits and machinery work, but he can't explain it in a theoretical sense. Yeah. And that's one of the things that was great about the original Marvel universe, is that everyone had different talents that could be applied in different situations. Which is how a well-constructed superhero universe should be done.
Getting to that, I was going to say it's a nice way to one-up him too, right? Because Cly's, it's like a low-key diss. It's like, oh well, you don't know what all this stuff is, but of course he can still do it, and he's better at doing it than she is, and he's more naturally talented at it.
Yeah.
So, you kind of get like you get a little Barb and a little like knocking down Tony, knock him down a peg. But you also build him up at the same time. It's not just like, oh yeah, you're Tony Stark, you're privileged and you're stupid. Yeah.
She's there to make sure that the business actually gets run, and then just give Tony things to do.
Yeah.
It's well handled. It makes him vulnerable, but it also keeps him heroic at the same time.
Well, Tony needs like a mommy basically, right? To get like tell him to clean his room and put him in the right spot so he can do his brilliant thing.
Oh God, wait, you think you should hook up then with Sis?
Well, we'll say that one more time, Punchy.
With you think he should hook up with Sis here?
Hook up with Sis.
I mean, they're basically they are building that up. I mean, they are, anytime Tony's in a room with a female, they start building up a potential relationship subplot. But that's definitely the direction I think they're going, at least for this arc.
Okay, what about you, right, Geek? Is this a potential?
I'm not going to say anything because I know the future. So, and I don't want to.
Oh my God, spicy. Okay, we'll wait then.
Well, apparently he's going to get married to his mommy feminist Hellcat. GM.
She's not a double agent, is she? Yeah. Like she's not got the Belle Delphine pheromones too, or something, does she?
She has some mind psychic powers, so maybe there's some of that.
Oh God. Okay. Well, I guess
we'll see. Patsy? Are you asking about Patsy being Belle Delphine? Okay.
No, that's a little too current year.
I don't know. Yeah.
I would guess Patsy's got some kind of pheromone thing or something, but they won't mention it. You'll have to like headcanon it in.
Well, what's really going on there, and we've talked about it in previous streams, is in actuality, at the beginning of Kent Rightwell's run, Tony is basically arguably suicidal, and Patsy is there, and I don't think she's consciously taking advantage of that, but that's kind of how it plays off. And Tony, as we talked about, is oftentimes just so desperate for any kind of intimacy whatsoever that he just hooks up with the first woman who's willing to give him the time of day, regardless of how unhealthy that relationship might be. So that's what I think is going on there. I don't think that's what Can't Rightwell think is going on there, but that's how I'm interpreting it. So
it turns out she was a Nazi all along. She was really working for Hydra.
Well, for her, actually, it would be she's secretly an MRA or something. That would be Hellcat's big dramatic reveal.
Yeah, that would be she's part of the Manosphere or something. Like she She went and she took classes from Jordan Peterson or something, and now big thing is telling young men to clean their rooms and be good fathers or something like that.
Yeah. So this is Clyde saying that Tony basically has an instinct for this that he can't put into words, right? You make things up as you go along. So he's basically doing all this engineering via intuition, rather than actual like academic knowledge.
As all good engineers do.
Yeah. And oh, Rhodey, where are you going? Out, sister. You brainy type folks can stay here and talk Matrix to your heart's content. Me, I'm gonna test my new toys.
As priority.
So Rhodey, yeah. He also, feels like the odd man out, right? Listening to the other three talk about engineering stuff. Oh, here's him seeing a bar. Oh, guess I'll take off for a while too. Where to? A meeting. So this is him going to AA. I'm really thirsty and I don't know why. They said there'd be nights like this. One day at a time, I'll walk away from it. So yeah, so this is another reference to him still dealing with it, still struggling with the issue, right?
Yeah, and then
all right, and here we have
we've got the other addiction coming up too. We go from one addiction.
Two bros, and the bros are both going through some stuff. So if only they could have their bro moment, they could see they're really the same. They're kept apart.
Yeah. So we have I first put on the tin suit to help Tony out of the jam his drinking had got him into, and I hated it. Now I only feel like I'm me when I'm doing the Iron Man riff. Tony said these repulsors wouldn't be as good as the old models, but to me they feel even more powerful. So yeah, this is him developing, as you say, that armor addiction. I feel like I'm me only when I'm doing this, right? Let's see. Yeah, really, they're the same. They're struggling with the same issue. It's just manifesting in different ways. Yeah, and him here saying, yeah, Tony did a top-notch job. I only wish I didn't have to depend on him for our repairs and such. Let's see. What else have we got here?
Oh, there's Mr. California.
There's Mr. California.
That's a good shot of him.
Okay, here we go. Here's a good shot of Mr. California here. So they're saying there's something funny about him representing California looking like that.
Yeah, I mean, that is just the archetype of California right there. That's everything you could ever imagine. Distilled into one character. It's great.
That's funny. Okay. I think I got this page. Yeah, but I think I got this page. At least let me help you put the solar panel into place. Hey, Jim, have you heard about Vibra? What about him? We caught a newscast on the way over. Okay, I'll go to the car and give a listen. And this is Tony saying, you don't have to. You can tune in normal broadcasts on your helmet receiver. So Roy doesn't even realize that he's got a radio broadcaster in his head, or in his helmet, right? So it's like all these little things that are building up for Rhodey, and it's gradually making more insecure and more angry. Even though Tony's not meaning to make him angry, he's just trying to be helpful, right? So I didn't know that, but you're right, I can. Unless Iron Man appears before noon today, the man calling himself Vibro will carry out his threat. Army and National Guard units are en route. So Vibro is challenging Iron Man to a fight, basically. And so Rhodey says, okay, I'm off. And meanwhile, the others are like, wait, shouldn't we discuss this first? Clyde's right, Rhodey. You don't know what you're getting into. And I don't care. Whatever it is, I'll handle it.
Yeah, go for it. High speed.
Yeah.
Combat ready. Shoot to kill.
Yeah. Anyone else feel like his head's been bitten off? Bitten off and chewed. And here's Erwin saying, it's a shame you don't have any spare suits of armor. So that's like that right there is like the beginning of, hey, Tony, maybe you should get back in the armor. That suddenly starts like the people around Tony start trying to encourage him to get back, right? And he resists and he resists and he resists. And I've got later captures that cover that aspect. Visual headache is kicked in. Ready? So they followed him, right? We thought maybe you could use some help. Help? Nobody can help. Not with the real problem. Let's see. And this is when he finally admits that he's having headaches, right? I think there are a couple of real problems. Never mind that now, sis. What are you talking about, Rhodey? I've been getting these headaches, real bad ones. How long have you had them? Almost from the beginning of my Iron Man career. And giving up and admitting that he's having issues. And this is where they come up with their first theory that it might have something to do with the cybernetic controls being tuned to Tony's brainwave patterns.
I also kind of like the angle that
Rhodey's having issues with them.
When that doesn't work, he suspects that maybe Tony lied to him.
Anyway. I wish the right side wasn't blurry.
Tony lied to him.
Right, it's a, what do you call it? When it's like suggested as a potential plot point, but that's not really what happened, right? Like a red herring.
The devices, huh?
He's getting paranoid, and he thinks Tony's sabotaging him, basically, because of his paranoia.
Yeah, he starts it. Right, yeah. So Tony sincerely believes it's the helmet and tries to fix it, but that's actually not the real problem. So then, yeah, Rhodey gets paranoid and thinks that Tony didn't actually fix it and is trying to sabotage him. Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, it's almost Lord of the Ringsy in a way. To make another topical reference. Like the Ring of Power, like how it's slowly corrupting him and turning him against his friends.
My armor. Armor.
You picture, I mean, maybe not as far as like Gollum or something, but like a later part of Frodo.
Got it fixed? I think so, but I won't be sure till you try it on. Okay, feels fine. Oh, and then this is the first this is what you were talking about, Mom, where he starts making the jabs about his drinking. Guess all that drinking didn't completely soften your brain. Huh. Guess not. So he just takes it. So the drinking didn't soften your brain? Hello? Brother, what softened his? I mean, talk about hostility. So, hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Reggie. Are we having trouble?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you. Marmaduke, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear Punchy and I can hear Right Geek.
Right Geek, can you hear us?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, yes, you can.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's some kind of network issue, but I guess we're good now.
I'm guessing it's just a delay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is them observing how hostile that was. Tony's like, I have to admit that what he said hurts. Yeah, so as we've been saying that the others are like, geez, what's gotten into him? He seems like he's really on edge, right?
I like how Rhodey explains it as he blurted it out, but then also admits that he felt good about blurting it out. So it's sort of like they are trying to balance it out by saying he's not entirely happy with how he's behaving, while at the same time he feels justified in his emotion. So it's a nice like wrestling with your inner demon, like that, like a teenager can understand that, right? But it feels realistic for someone who's wrestling with himself.
Yeah, I mean, especially coming as it is, like off of a Blue Falcon situation with his best friend, because I remember when I read that part, I was like, oh god, like I actually laughed when I first read it. I thought it was kind of funny, and then as soon as I laughed, I stopped myself and I was like, wait a minute, that's really mean, actually. So that was the reaction I had. It's very similar reaction to what Rhodey had in a way. So yeah, I thought that was quite good, the way they handled it. Are you all right?
And then this is him lifting a rock, and then can you hear me?
Yeah, it said it's going offline again, but I guess we're back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think on my end I'm just having a little bit of connectivity issues.
Okay,
like I'm hearing everybody okay. It just feels like there's a few second delay, right? So I'm just gonna be deliberate about my comments.
Yeah, I think on your end, right, Geek, there are I don't know how much of a delay, but there's a bit of a delay. So
yeah, a bit of a delay. Let's see. So he still has the headaches, right? But Tony said he fixed this blasted helmet. Did he lie to me? So as we were saying, Rhodey gets paranoid that Tony did not actually fix the helmet and is trying to sabotage him.
oh. Sorry, are you hearing that?
Yep. This sound.
So
this
that might be my cat. He just jumped up here. So if you start hearing any weird noises, that's probably the cat doing something.
Oh, okay. All right, so they get their first contract.
It's for video games, right?
It's for a video game called Circus of Monsters. Classy, huh? Hey, how are we going to build these people? We don't have a name for our company yet. Well, since we're working on something with circus in the title, how about Circus Maximus? Climanestra, that's awful. I don't know, I kind of like it. Meanwhile, in the foreground, Tony's actually working on the contract. And he turned in 5 minutes while they're talking about what to name their company, he figures out how to do it. Right? Here it is. Here, what is? Not the design. It is the whole thing complete in less than 5 minutes. Well, it is pretty basic. I gotta sit down. Oh yeah, and you shared this one, Marm, I know.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Tony is a bit more of a serious, melancholy dude.
Yeah. So perhaps might have been my previous career is a bit too solemn for the company's good or my own. Circuits Maximus is fine with me. Let's see. Yeah, but I was also capturing those pages just because Tony came up with the whole design in 5 minutes when they were talking about what to name themselves, which I thought was funny.
Tony is genius, but also Tony is kind of weird nerd. Yeah.
Yeah. Roddy looks good, smooth, confident. I sometimes forget that he's a top-notch pilot, and that may make him a better Iron Man than I ever was. So, it's interesting. Like all the conflict that builds up between these two is because they don't actually communicate with each other, really. Because Rhodey is insecure that Tony is trying to get his armor back. Meanwhile, Tony is thinking Rhodey should be Iron Man forever, right? and if they could just talk to each other for 2 seconds, they would figure out that that's what's going on. But that they're dumb guys, so they don't do that.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry, guys. Sorry. Yeah, sorry
want
if
to talk
I
about
offend you
feelings.
guys,
yeah, that's hella gay. You don't want to do that, I mean, especially if you're gay. That's even more gay. So, yeah, I disavow everything Right Geek says. Don't talk about your feelings, guys.
Oh, so this is in the issue with the fairy tale characters. I didn't capture the Blackbird Pies, but
it's on Twitter.
I probably should have. Yeah, it is on Twitter.
But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with the overarching plot, so it's just more fun.
Yeah,
more
the
fun.
Overarching plot. Yeah, the overarching plot is that when Rhodey fights these fairy tale characters, they get away. So Rhodey feels like he's been made a fool of, and now wants to confront them again. Right?
No, they don't
pride is at stake here. Yeah.
Like it would be one thing if they got away. Like they get away, and he winds up boomering and destroying like half the building, doesn't he?
Yes.
So it's worse than just getting away.
Yeah. My pride is at stake here, and more of my identity. I am Iron Man. That's what I become. Iron Man cannot be defeated like that. Yeah. Because if he can be defeated, he's nothing. I'm nothing. Yeah, so this is him boomerang and destroying half the place. Yeah. Yeah, next time you do me a favor, don't. Meanwhile, Tony is actually solving the problem in a different way. Anything else, Mr. Stark? No thanks. These property records tell me all I want to know. All I need now is a telephone and the number of the Los Angeles Police Department. So, meanwhile, while Rhodey is boomerang and destroying the restaurant here.
Yeah, well, this is
Tony comes up with another solution.
Was this? I think this might be after he almost clobbers a bunch of people with. No, wait, it's before. He almost clobbers a bunch of people with the telephone pole. Do you remember that part?
I'm pretty sure I've captured it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it was interesting because Tony was doing that exact same bit when he was starting to get drunk. He almost clobbered a whole bunch.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's probably a deliberate parallel. So yes. Yeah, so this is him. This is Tony figuring out another way to capture these fairy tale guys, right? From there, it was easy. I checked and found out that the Grimes Realty Company has been bidding for the Pines restaurant and lost out. I understand they kept contradicting themselves, and the police took them in for questioning. They're in jail awaiting trial now. What I'd like to know is how they did all those stunts. I'm too old to start believing in the supernatural. I guess they'll have to remain a mystery for the time being. The important thing is that the so-called Brothers Grimm are out of action. Yeah. You weren't wearing armor, but that didn't stop you. You beat them with your brains. Me, all I did was burn down a restaurant. See you guys later. I'm going to go find something else to mess up. I should have expected that. He'll get over
I like how
what are you working on, Tony?
We've had Rhodey screw up a few times in the past, and now this whole issue is him screwing up. So this is now like the audience is seeing Rhodey screwing up in the Iron Man suit, which lends credibility to why he feels sensitive about the risk of him losing the Iron Man spot if someone comes to try to take it away from him.
Yeah, but the ironic thing is, the more insecure he becomes, the more he screws up, right? So,
he's losing his confidence and he's losing his cool, and it's just the more he loses his confidence, the more he screws up. So he loses his confidence more, and he's
it's a vicious cycle. Meanwhile, we see the first appearance of Tony's working on armor again, right? Not because he has any intention, at least not any conscious intention, of getting back inside it.
Oh, there we go.
Here's the I hate Tony Stark. Just something I'm putting together from the spare parts Bistro gave me, nothing much. Pain's worse than ever. Pain in my head and my heart. And in my heart. I don't like myself for what I'm feeling, not a bit, but I can't help it. I hate Tony Stark. Because Tony Stark one-upped him unintentionally, right? So we're really starting to build to what's going to end up being a fight eventually, as we kind of spoiled at the beginning of the stream.
Punchy was talking about using panels from these comics to troll me later. When I read this, I actually thought of my comic, Gene Smith Wannabe Gladiator, where she's running around saying, "Man, I hate my brother." Right? You guys should use this panel to troll me.
Well, change the dialogue or something to.
I hate my brother.
Yeah.
Dang it. My mouse glitched on me. Hold on a second.
Did you roadie something? You roadied up
another
the street.
roadie.
Yeah.
I roadied it up. Yeah.
I hate I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Here's more. I really don't know if I can stand another day with Tony Stark. I don't know why my ex-best friend gets to me so bad. I only know I don't want to see him. I don't want to hear his name. I think he's mad at me or frightened or both. He's afraid I'm going to ask for the Iron Man armor back now that I'm not drinking. But then he says, if only you knew how glad I am not to be wearing that armor. So, again, guys, just talk to each other.
No,
this is all.
You can't, though. I mean, that's.
This is all being sustained by refusal to communicate.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, it's one of those like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation, right? It's a catch-22. Yes, you could talk about your feelings and skip drama like this, but it's like Samson's hair or something, right? Not talking about your feelings, one of the sources of manly strength. So as soon as you start doing that, you lose what makes you a man. So.
Well, they have the excuse of supervillains attacking every single day that interrupts their conversations right when they're getting somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, because if you're wasting all your time, exactly, if you're wasting all your time talking about feelings and whining about it, then you're not ready to fight the supervillains. So yeah, it's one of those unavoidable tragedies that just has to happen because otherwise you'll wind up with like some whiny, mopey non-hero. Like you'll wind up with like a Scott Pilgrim or something, basically.
Yeah. I think this is after the date you've been talking about. Bless.
Yeah,
I never had a problem
around the time of the date.
Yeah.
This might be right after it, but
right after it, yeah. So he has this date that fails because he can't relax.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what he says.
That's what he says.
It's never happened to me before.
And this is him again thinking that Tony has lied to him about fixing the helmet.
And that was actually a young lady that he'd rescued too, right? That was the cover art. You know, this big heroic moment where he saves the damsel in distress, and then he's going to go over and woo her and win her over, and it doesn't work. You know, and the comic, in the logic of the comic, it doesn't work because he's stressed out and he's distracted. But I mean, you know why he's you know why. Okay, and this armor, it's similar to like the old school design, right? Or
yeah. But maybe we don't need Jim Rhodes if that's what I think it is. It is, but I'm just fooling around with it. Work therapy. I'd hate to put this on, not till my head's screwed on a lot tighter. So he's building. In my analysis, Tony is saying, I can't be Iron Man. I shouldn't be Iron Man again. I'm not prepared for it. Iron Man is the reason I started drinking in the first place. But I think that I think there's a little bit of an unconscious thing going on with him too. That if he wanted to just work out design ideas, why would he do it with armor? Unless on some deep, deep unconscious level, he actually does want to be Iron Man again. And he's just not acknowledging that fact to himself as of yet.
So we have in the West Coast Avengers issue, he does propose that as an interpretation. He says, maybe I only came here in the armor hoping I would get to do some superhero. So I think you've nailed it, right, Geek? And it's subtle here and a little bit more obviously stated later.
Right. So
yeah, I mean, I think I mean Marmaduke fans, right? Obviously, but when I was reading this, actually, my first thought was, is this like the beginning of War Machine or something? Like, is he trying to design custom armor for Rhodey, and then Rhodey comes in and screws it all up? Like, I was thinking that would be a great little twist, but it didn't pan out that way, unfortunately. Like, oh my God, Rhodey just destroyed his present or something like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, and this is Tony telling him you already have magnetic capacity. Oh yeah, I must have forgot. Another tense moment. There's a lot of good use of the close-ups to show the tension in the faces of the two men.
Yeah.
Super serious.
And here's a little bit on Tony's end. Rhodey could have told me he's hooked up with the Avengers, the team I co-founded, but no, I have to hear about it on TV. So actually, he's a little bit pissed off about that.
That's salty right there. That's salty.
That's a little bit salty, yeah.
I think that's the first crack in his emotional shield, at least as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's the art guy.
Yeah.
Here's number one termite.
The art guy.
Termite, yeah.
Yeah. And Termite manages to get away.
I like the twisteroo where Rhodey assumes Termite Man just had the Termite uses his suit for his power, and then the switcheroo is that Termite's a mutant, so he just fakes out Rhodey. Okay, now that I'm taking your suit away, you have no powers. And he comes back and he's gone. Stupid.
Yeah. And then he's like, stupid. Yeah.
I've been using that panel as well. The stupid one. That one was great.
Here's the return of Obadiah Stane. Perhaps Obadiah Stane and Iron Man must meet again. So this is Denny O'Neil saying, "Yeah, we're getting back to him in a minute.
I promise, guys, I haven't forgotten about my characters."
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't really have much to do at this point, though. I mean, he's. Oh yeah, that's a great picture right there. You know.
Yeah.
Goodness. I mean, and Stane's just kind of out of the picture because he doesn't. You know, he's the big bad guy. He's Bowser, right? But you don't have to show Bowser every single panel. You just show him at the end when he shows up and gloats about the princess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that might give us something to think about, Rhodey. Just because you haven't seen the termite doesn't mean he isn't there somewhere. Maybe you ought to check underneath the Fedicin plant. Hey, Stark, what is this? You giving orders? You expect me to fly off on a wild goose chase because you got something to think about? Put that on hold, okay? Put it on permanent hold. I'm getting some air.
Didn't he say the exact same thing to the girl? He said, "Let's put this on hold. Let's put it on permanent." If deliberate, they're paralleling his frustration with his bad date with his frustration with Tony. Oh no! I just made it worse, Punchy. I'm making everything worse.
I don't know. Well, I've got several panels here. He says, "Guess this wasn't the best time you had. Sorry, it wasn't you. Really,
No.
It might have been in a different panel, but
yeah. Oh, so this is the Fedicin plant collapsing.
Yeah,
I like the detail that he sacrificed a person's car to save the building, and he doesn't end up saving the building, so he basically just destroyed one car.
Yeah. What's this?
Well, he also destroys the building too, doesn't he? Because wasn't it like his punch or his blast that takes the building out?
Yeah, I mean, termite started the damage, but you could say he was probably a little more careless than. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where it's maybe partially his fault, but it adds to the subplot of him being kind of like out of his game, right? Yeah. But I wouldn't bill him for it. I'd bill termite for that one.
Well, I mean, termite's making the tunnel, and termite intends to destroy the building. But the guy who actually does the killing blow and who does the damage is Rhodey. So it's, you know, he doesn't intend to do it, but he is the. I was going to say straw that breaks the camel's back, but it's more like a megaton punch that breaks the camel's back. So vaporizes.
And then this is Rhodey discovering that Tony's working on armor. Oh no, he's destroying the armor. And then we go on to the next issue. Here, it's broken. You want to fix it? The voice is harsh and ugly. The words seem to hang in the air like fumes. For almost a full minute after James Rhodes speaks, there is a tense silence. Fix my boot jet, slave. But you're Tony Stark, the big shot inventor. You can handle it, right? It's all these little cracks at him.
I like how a lot of this ribbing could actually work in the context of a healthy relationship, like two guys just giving each other flack and loving it. But what's changed is the subtext of, I don't know, the coldness between them, which the narrator helped underscore at the very first page of this issue, just to establish that's your catch up on how things are not good between Tony and Rhodey.
Right. And for the first time, Tony actually speaks up. Rhodey, you've been getting more and more hostile lately. Maybe we better talk about what's bothering you. As if you don't know what's bothering me. This big brain, this is what's bothering me. This spare suit of armor you've been working on. And he crunches it. And what do you think of that? I think you're seriously disturbed. I think you need help. And he actually manhandles him here. And throws him on the ground. You ought to talk about needing help. You needed help to crawl out of the gutter you drank yourself into. That's right, I did.
So Tony's basically now that Tony's been through all that, Tony's kind of exactly the right person to tell Rhodey that you need help right about now to get through what you're going through, right? Tony's negative experience overcoming it has made him a stronger person so that he can turn around and help Rhodey, but we still have to get over the emotional please notice me senpai thing between the two of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you think it's a notice me senpai thing then?
No, I don't think notice me senpai is right. I think tsundere is right. I love him. He's my bro, but I'm jealous of him too. And if only they could talk. That does. What would that be? That would be yaoi. Yeah, that would be like a yaoi fluffy romance.
Honestly, I have no idea about any yaoi archetypes. Like I've never read a yaoi manga in my life, so I'm.
I mean, neither. But the same archetypes always show up in flighty romances. Yeah. I mean, I have this premise that Marvel comics are basically soap operas. They're soap operas with Shonen Jump action sequences in between the soap opera subplots.
Yes. Yeah, I think that. I think that
basically. I mean, that's how pro wrestling is too over here.
Well, they say pro wrestling's anime for hillbillies.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe like Puro, like the Japanese pro wrestling, but like Western pro wrestling, I think it's soap opera for hillbillies. It's it's very very soap opera, but
I think that the soap opera plus Shonen Jump action scenes that was initially established by Stan Lee and the other creators in the 60s because I mean, if you talk about the original Iron Man comics that Stan Lee wrote, you just couldn't avoid that he was using his background as a romance comic writer as well as writing action comics. So we should feel sorry for him, says Tony. I do, but I also feel sorry for you. This must be pretty rough on you. It isn't a lot of fun. Anything I can do? Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just wondering. Do you happen to know if they're still making romance comics, or is that just a genre that's evaporated?
Maybe in the indies.
I feel like Marvel and DC moved beyond it. Yeah, and now it's just you got to go looking for that.
Beyond it. Yeah, the indies probably are still making them. I'm not. I don't really seek them out, so I don't know.
Okay, yeah, because I know we were bringing that up. I think off stream or after the stream or something with Hellcat or whatever, like the old romance comics.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, they don't make those kind of old school romance comics anymore, do they?
That's just another marketing group that Marvel and DC have given up on, and they've let Japan just snatch up all of the teenagers, all the teenage girls who love romances. They all go to manga now.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's all manga. And do the Koreans do any romance?
There are Korean comics called like manhwa. They're actually left to right because Koreans are oriented left to right. I've only read one, and it did have romantic elements, but it also had like supernatural elements to it.
Yeah.
But it had like lots of Korean gods in it. I couldn't keep straight.
Yeah, it's a weird fusion of like Western comics and manga, and it's got its own distinct style. The reason I ask is because I'm nowhere near as familiar with manhwas as I am with mangas, but I know especially with like K-pop and Korean dramas and stuff, like girls these days seem to really Korean stuff. So that's why I'm wondering, like, do Korean comics have like their own romance genre that girls are going for, or is that just?
I know the genre exists. I haven't read as much of it because I think that I don't know, Americans are more weebs, so they don't bring a lot of Korean manga over here. I've only found one so far. But I know the Koreans are involved in a lot of these like web comics. Like a lot of vertical web comics were actually made popular by Korean creators.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of Korean stuff on Webtoons, or translated Korean stuff.
Okay, just basically somewhere that is in America, you have to go to for romance, I guess. All right.
Yeah, I am actually currently trying to teach myself Korean right now, so I really want to get a hold of like untranslated Korean manhwa to see if I understand it.
You're doing it with what was it? The Duolingo, was it? Or
yeah, and not because I'm into K-pop or Korean dramas, just because I work with Koreans. My boss is Korean, so
okay.
I've always been curious. I've always been curious about their language because I hear him speaking it to other Korean friends when he's talking on the phone. And I picked up some things, but I was like, I really want to know more about this language. So, yeah.
Well, let us know. Maybe one of these days you could get a job writing Iron Man comics for the Korean market or something. Well.
Anyway, so we're
romance comics and cleavage to be looked at by the male gaze is where we're at, I guess. Yeah, they're objectifying Cly.
But here we have.
I actually kind of like the sweet. I like the sweet side of it. When Cly kisses him, it's just because he does a heroic thing and he's about to go die, and she's not even sure if she loves him yet. She just wanted to do one nice thing for him before he goes off heroically. As the knight in shining armor, a knight deserves a kiss.
Yeah. I started working on this as a form of therapy and to test a couple of ideas I had. But if Rhodey becomes any more irrational, somebody may have to stop him. I'm afraid it'll be me. So this is him foreshadowing what's about to happen, right? Yeah. All right, so here's part where Rhodey's getting out of control. Iron Man, take it easy. People are getting hurt. Smack! I don't need advice from you.
Yeah, that's a great panel too. I really like that one.
Yeah. And Scarlet Witch is like, "What's with Iron Man? I thought he was your bodyguard. We've been at odds lately."
Classic understatement.
Yeah, massive understatement of the century. So this is Tony once again. How'd he slip through my fingers?
Termite.
Probably melted off the top. Yeah, melted off the top layer of molecules from your gloves. He screamed like he was in agony. I didn't think the neutralizer's effects would be so inhumane. Great. Feel sorry for the bad guy. Take it easy. Why should I? I couldn't handle a termite. No, I had to be bailed out by a witch, an ex-drunk, and whatever this gun is, which he destroys.
Now, it's not stated, but it seems like that was more important than the immediate context suggests, because the Avengers are talking about this gun like, oh, it's the only one we have, and maybe the government's going to use these guns to start a war with the mutants. And then Tony says, well, I'll analyze it later. So it seems like what he destroys could have significance in the Avengers comics or the X-Men comics, but they don't make a big deal out of it at the moment.
Yeah, it probably has something to do with the X-Men comics, which I know less about. So, but it's good that we have a company that is able to cross-pollinate each other's lines in a way that the shared universe is consistent. Oh my gosh, imagine that. A shared universe that is consistent across all of the books.
I don't buy it.
Yeah.
That's never
no, really. Yeah. What you really have to have is Tony being imprisoned by the Kingpin in one comic, Tony fighting a Hydra girl with Captain America in another comic.
We need a Venom
Tony
version of every single character.
Yeah. And then, of course, Tony being becoming a literal space god and marrying his abuser in the third comic. I mean, Tony shows up in a lot of comics, which is like, I have to buy so many Marvel comics so I can keep track of what's going on with Tony. That's one of the dangers of being character loyal.
Well, isn't that one of the points though? Like to get kids, like you leave these little cliffhangers, like, oh, look at this cool gun. Don't you wish you knew what the hell we were talking about? And then you're like, oh god, now I gotta go to X-Men to figure it out. Like that kind of stuff. I mean, isn't that part of the point of all this like connected universe stuff?
Some of it is to advertise alternative works, yes. Especially, so the big one was always the summer books, because the summer books was you were just getting home from school, and so you'd want to sell the kid like an extra big issue just to celebrate the start of summer and no more school, right? So they would advertise the hell out of the summer events, like Secret Wars is the one they're referencing a lot in this, Atlantis Attacks, yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is just them saying, Tony, do you have any idea what's wrong? He used to be so nice, so sane. I know, he was my best friend. I'm not sure what he is now. I'm not even sure what I am. As he stares at the armor. I only know that.
Phone call.
I know. Yeah, it's me. It's but it's a junk phone call because it's calling from New York. We don't know anybody in New York. Okay. I only know I'm not. Hello?
Sorry. But sorry about that. The cat's just God.
So we got Reiki having a phone call, and we got Punchy getting attacked by his cat.
What are the joys of live streaming? Yeah.
No, sorry. He just knocked over a bunch of catnip all over me. And
see, if I had good comedic timing, this is when I would have had my backwards video mistake. Just to all three of us would be adding to the chaos.
Okay, I only know I'm not this. I'll never put this on. So he's still saying I'll never be Iron Man again. Why not? Remember how I was a few months ago, drunk, helpless, a walking ruin? My being Iron Man had something to do with that. How much, I'm not sure, but something. Then why'd you build it? The new armor, I mean. New? In terms of design, it's ancient, almost identical to the first Iron Man I created in Southeast Asia. It does seem a bit primitive compared to what Jim's wearing. It is. I put it together from scraps. You still haven't answered his question. Why'd you bother? Partly to try a couple of design ideas. I'm no good at working things out on paper. I've got to have hardware in my hands. And partly because I felt we might need it. You mean Rhodey? Yes, he's been on the verge of cracking it for months. Now I'm afraid he's past the verge. This is the one you captured, Marm, with the I'm no good with working things out on paper. I have to have hardware in my hands. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony's a hands-on kind of guy, not a
hands-on guy.
He's a sensor, not a thinker. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another shot of Vibro for you, Punch.
Oh God. Okay, sorry. I think I hope I muted all that. You guys still there?
We're here.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Yeah, the cat's finally decided he's eaten enough of my pants to wander away. Vibro, Mr. California. That's the kind of thing I'm thinking about. He actually looks like something
comes back.
And he, strangely enough, is from California. So,
No, we've seen how dangerous he is, and we have nothing to protect ourselves with, nor any way of attacking him. Yes, we do. I packed your new armor. It's in the trunk. Well, that's where it stays. Tony, we have an obligation to put that madman where he can do no harm. Morley, Clyde, the armor isn't tested. I'm not certain that it functions, but more than that, I'm not Iron Man anymore. So this is him resisting. Okay, but at least we can follow him long enough to see in which direction he's heading. Then we'll tell the police. There's a sign up ahead. So here, we're building up to the air show scene here. And this is Tony realizing that Rhodey going off half-cocked is going to maybe cause a lot of problems at this air show, right? Don't you see Vibro and Rhodey at that air show blasting at each other with a crowded stadium? With Rhodey not thinking straight, there won't be room in the hospital.
No, we got to flatten the curve.
Yeah, we gotta flatten the curve. Yeah, that's not true. We can do more. Or you can, Tony. You can put on the new armor and go after Rhodey. Stop him. You've got to. No, I told you. I am not Iron Man. Good use of the panel progression there.
Feels tense, yeah.
Yeah. Where are you going? So this Morley is really insistent on Tony putting this armor on. Well, so Morley decides, I'm going to put the armor on, right? If you're not going to do it, I'll do it. Listen, Tony, we can't let Jim Rhodes run wild. He might kill someone, and if he does, Iron Man, everything he represents will be finished. The armor will just be like a gun that some nutcase uses. What's worse, it'll be the end of Jim. He'll never forgive himself. He's got to be stopped, and as his friend, I'm going to stop him. But you can't simply put on that suit and fly away. It takes training. I'm a fast learner. Maybe I'll get lucky. Can't you understand? Jim Rhodes is my friend. Mine too. Tony, you don't have to. Yes, I do. So this is putting him into the armor for the first time since he started his recovery for the first time. Yeah. He does not want to do this.
Sorry, Warzord is just chiming in with had this issue when he was a kid. Read it at least 3 times.
Oh yeah.
So
read it at least 3 times. I love this issue. Nice. Cool. So this is Tony reluctantly getting into the suit.
I also like the detail that the mask looks especially sad in this one panel.
Yeah. Oh, and there's the kiss you were talking about.
Oh yeah. Kissing her fair night goodbye. Oh God, stop it.
She has to take the glasses off just to show how beautiful she is before the kiss.
Yeah, well, I mean,
yeah. Jim Rhodes is wearing the finest armor I've ever built. Nothing the guard could throw at him would be effective. And there's no time to call the Avengers. Rhodey's in an arena full of helpless people. Fighting a madman. With the way Rhodey's been behaving lately, somebody's going to get hurt, and I'm afraid that somebody will be an innocent bystander. I can't let Rhodey do that. But are you sure you can stop him? Is what you're wearing capable of? Is this armor the equal of his? No, not even close. Comparing the two is like comparing the Wright brothers' plane to a Phantom jet. But I don't intend to win through strength. First, I'll talk to him. And if that doesn't work, then I'll try a few tricks. You don't sound very confident. Tony, can you remove your helmet for a second? Yes. And you gotta take the glasses off to show how pretty she is before the kiss. Sure, why? Sad face. Good luck.
Bow, bow, bow.
I love Tony's sad face there. He feels that becoming Iron Man again may revive his drinking problem. I'm afraid he could be right.
So she's just going to throw his woman problem in his face to try and distract him.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's fair. You know, I'd rather have Iron Man dealing with his woman problem than dealing with his drinking problem.
Yes, right. Yeah. Listen, while he was crawling around the gutter soaking up booze, I was in the soup putting myself on the line. Every week, almost every day. So this is the speech. I deserve it, right? This is the I deserve it speech you were mentioning before.
Exactly,
Mark,
yeah.
Yeah.
This is Rhodey for the first time really articulating what the problem has been the whole time. Yeah, for everybody, not just for the audience.
Yep. I risked my neck on the Beyonders world. That's in Secret Wars. I tackled Magma, that termite character, Thunderball. Remember him? Radioactive Man, Firebrand. Oh, and the Mandarin. Let's not forget him. I won, or at least kept them from winning. I think that buys me something. It buys me the right to wear the armor, the right to be called Iron Man. Nobody's questioning that. Well, look who's here. The walking rum pot. Ow!
But
whoa, yeah. Jim, let's talk about what's bothering you. You'd like that, wouldn't you? You're good at talking, Stark. The smoothest silk playboy with the silver tongue. The ladies' man, the charmer. I've watched you in action. Enough to know how you talk. Talk all you want. I'm not listening. Jim, you just put your hand on me. I'm glad, real glad, because it gives me an excuse.
Fujoshi. That panel right there.
Plang.
Now.
They're fighting. Let's keep watching. We're going to want to tell our grandchildren about this. Clemenestro, we got to do something. There's nothing we can do. Rhodey, please. Some part of himself deep within tells James Rhodes to heed Tony Stark's plea, but he cannot heed that still small part. The pounding in his skull is too great. The pounding and the pain of what feels like 1,000 tiny needles jabbing into the back of his eyes.
There's a really nice element of this whole fight scene where Tony told us this gray armor is not the equal of Rhodey's armor. And throughout the fight, they make a point of how Tony only beats him by doing some like clever, he does some of his clever tricks that he wanted to try. But it was nice of them to reward that setup with Tony having to use his head in the fight.
Rhodey, why aren't you following him? Are you afraid? Are you kidding? I'm just giving the Tin Man a head start. Why'd you do that, Cly? Are you trying to make things worse? Tony clearly wanted Rhodey to leave the field. He had his reasons. Since he's been sober, he hasn't been wrong once. I only hope this isn't the first time. And he's chasing me. Good. Now nobody else is in harm's way. Maybe he's ready to listen to reason. Rhodey, okay, we've had our fun. Now let's stop trying to wreck each other and discuss our differences like adults. Yes, that would be spectacular if we could do that. We've been saying all along, just talk to each other.
Oh, don't do that. I like the way they handled the eye in those last panels there too. It's very dramatic.
Okay, here's him crashing into the winery. Next, I've got to buy myself a few seconds. He can literally fly rings around me in the air. But maybe I can lose him in this building. That smell. What kind of place is this? A winery. I'm surrounded by vats of wine.
Yeah, this was a great part. I loved that.
Yeah. Dang it! Come on, guys.
I mean, they're actually.
I like the detail though that he has to make it look like what he's doing isn't too easy, right? So even though Tony's in trouble with his alcoholism, he's still on the ball enough that he has to. Oh, gee, what does this part do? I gotta. Oh man, I sure hope I can fix whatever this part is. But he's completely in command of the fight.
Yeah. And in a rush, it returns. The thirst, the consuming need for alcohol, undiminished even after months of sobriety. His sense is real, and for a moment he cannot think, cannot remember his task. Then, with a tremendous effort of will, he focuses his attention and figures you'd be here. If there's a thimbleful of the sauce in the entire county, you'll find it. Yeah, can't make this look too easy. Look, Rhodes, I don't want any more trouble with you. Why don't you take a hike? No chance, Stark. I always finish what I start. Now you gonna give me my power pod? Maybe. I don't want him to catch me in here. Under this metal, I'm trembling. Air, blessed air, untainted with alcohol fumes.
That's another really good panel. That's in my folder for using.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the part where he gets.
You can't outrun me. Yeah. I'll put this where it belongs. Then I'll decide whether to crumple you up like a wad of tinfoil or... What? I can't move. What have you done to me? Yep. I damaged a circuit in the hip pod that caused the magnetic beam to lock the outer layer of the armor in place. Don't try to move. You can't. Just listen. Yeah, so Tony's in command through the clever tricks he was talking about.
His clever trick to make Rhodey stiff.
Yeah.
What?
I should have put. Let's see how many ways Punchy can make this gay into the
right
description. Okay. After all.
Yeah, well, that was an accident. Sorry.
I'm not your enemy.
This is a nice touch. So if Tony's armor is a shell, if Tony's armor is a shell that's protecting him, he takes off his shell so he can be emotionally vulnerable with his bro, and that way his bro will know that I don't mean you any harm, right?
Yeah.
Because now they're talking, now they're opening up, and they're doing the whole
thing.
Right when he gets stiff, he decides that they're going to have
right.
So yeah, I think Mom's right about that. It's a visual metaphor for what he's doing.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know why you think I am, because you want to take the only thing that means anything to me. Ever since I was a little kid, all I ever thought about was being a hero. That's why I enlisted in the army, why I went to flight school, why I volunteered for NAM. Finally, I make it. Pick up the whole package. Hero? Forget that. I'm a superhero. Now it's going to be all gone. Rhodey, I know a bit of what that's like. To need something and not have it. You must believe me. I don't want your armor. This very, very nice moment of being vulnerable with your bro.
And taking your pants off very slowly.
And taking your
yuck, yuck, yuck.
I don't want to put it on. I'm scared of it. That armor made me feel invulnerable, not like other human beings. And not being like other human beings made me a drunk. I lost my soul to the bottle. And it's so hard to explain, impossible to explain to someone who hasn't been. This is in the next issue when they actually start after the fight, when they're besties again, right?
Yeah, we did that next issue too, right?
Yeah.
I think you wrapped up in the next issue.
Yeah. Look, let's just say that you've earned the right to be Iron Man if that's what you want. While I was busy depleting the world's alcohol reserve, you put yourself on the line time and time again. Keep the armor. But Tony, you created the armor. You are Iron Man in a way I can never be. Okay, then let's leave it at this. You've got a problem. Your headaches. So I captured those because Tony's like, yeah, you deserve the armor. Keep the armor. And then Rhodey's like, but you're Iron Man. So Now they're friends again. It's like they're both saying, "No, you be Iron Man. No, you be Iron Man."
It's like they're fighting over a toy.
Yeah. And then here is Tony visiting the West Coast Avengers in the armor. As a matter of fact, I do mind. Jim Rhodes, Iron Man, would like to be taken off your active membership list for personal reasons. He'll check back with you as soon as he can. Here's his ID. Wait a minute. How do we know you're not holding him captive somewhere and came here to trick us into not looking for him? You just won't trust me, will you, Clint? Mister, for all I know, you're the Crimson Dynamo's brother-in-law. Why should I trust you? You would trust Tony Stark, wouldn't you? Of course, I've known the Avengers benefactor for years. Okay, then trust me. I am or was the original Iron Man. Yeah, so Hawkeye was not there for the reveal to a bunch of other Avengers in Avengers 216. So this is the first time Hawkeye finds out that the original Iron Man was in fact. Yeah.
So they just said he's like the West Coast Avengers, right? So he was different team, the B team or something.
Different team. Yeah, okay. Different team.
Didn't he just decide to go off and start it? Because I remember Hawkeye fighting with Captain America all the time in Avengers, and eventually just like formed his own team. Like, oh, good, those two aren't going to be slapping each other, whatever anymore. I was going to say something a lot more gay, but then I realized Punchy was here, so I better not.
No, it's Rhodey. So Rhodey's the only one who's gay. The rest of them are. Well, I don't know. Maybe Hawkeye is too. He is a bit. His costume's a bit weird, but
purple.
Yeah.
I don't know. The case has been made that Tony's pretty gay for Captain America, but anyway.
But that's more a Tumblr thing. Like the Tumblrites are their own little subgroup.
Yeah, I think that's like a product of like actual Fujoshis who are just trying to read their own stuff. Like I think the Rhodey thing is enough that you can read it into there without being a weird girl pervert or anything. But that's just me. I don't know.
Okay, so what?
It's a big reveal. Tony Stark is Iron Man, or used to be.
Yeah, Tony Stark is Iron Man. Yeah.
So who doesn't realize that Tony Stark's Iron Man at this point? Is there? I mean, is it all like the superheroes realize it now, or?
I think at this point, pretty much all the Avengers know. It's just everyone who's not an Avenger would not know, and that of course includes like all the normies out there. None of the normies know Tony's Iron Man until the early 2000s. So
I mean, it seems really weird because like he spent all these years building up like cover stories and trying to protect the fact that he's Iron Man. Yeah. Tony Stark is Iron Man. Blah 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 blah. And then like as soon as he finally gets a chance to be like, okay, I'm not Iron Man anymore. I don't have to cover for myself anymore. Like that is the moment that he decides to tell everybody, "Hey, I'm Iron Man." Like, like when you're not. Like I don't know. It just seems weird. Maybe it was just busy work. He was making busy work for himself by trying to have a secret identity, and then he just misses the drama. Maybe.
I mean, this ironically underscores like a media problem you'd run into in real life if you were to join the Avengers. Is wait a second, how do I know you're the real Iron Man at any given point?
I mean, if he's suspicious about it, he's never seen Iron Man's face before. So how does he know that, Iron Man from like a couple months ago wasn't, some weird supervillain dressed in a similar suit? It's a good point. This I think is a no prize that we should try and come up with.
Okay, so here's my no prize explanation. The Avengers have like little cufflinks or whatever that confirm this is the guy who's part of our team, even if it doesn't reveal any What it would be? It'd be like having a digital ID, but the digital ID contains no personal details
yeah, but
of
you can't fit cufflinks on that outfit on either. Well, no, I don't think it would work on his outfit either. It would clash with the purple. So, I don't know. It's a mystery.
I think the fact that they have not revealed themselves to each other, at least they, in much of their history, they had not revealed themselves to each other. It's actually, I think it's actually been used for story fodder where they have been infiltrated before by people wearing somebody's costume as a disguise. I could be remembering wrong, but it. And then we also have like people being mind controlled and stuff. Like Tony's been mind controlled a couple of times. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that would be a question for chat then. You know, if anybody in chat can think of it, comics in which the Avengers have been infiltrated by somebody dressed in a silly superhero.
But here we have Tigra getting into trouble with Godzilla here. And oh no, we have to go save her. Tony,
everybody
come help us.
Your eyes. This is very problematic. Should not be seen by anyone.
Yeah. So Hawkeye tries to invite Tony to come along, and Tony's like, "I'm sorry, I don't think I'm up to it," and that pisses Hawkeye off. Like,
I mean, it's problematic because
maybe we're not getting through to you. So I'll play it back. A woman's in danger, a friend, and you might be the only guy around who can save her. You're telling me you're opting out? I must. I'm sorry. Forget it. Come on, Mockingbird. We've got things to do. As for you, Stark, next time you're thinking of dropping by, don't.
Ouch.
Yeah, and then this is his speech, like, maybe I came in the armor because I actually do, right? So, I can't blame. I'd feel that way too if I were him. He can't know what it was like. Nobody who hasn't been through it can know. The humiliation, the shame, the endless wandering, unable to think of anything else except that next taste, that next drink. Then waking up not knowing what you've done, where you've been, even where you are. The pain, the despair. For so long I wore armor and I was flamboyant and people called me hero. But inside, under the metal shell, I was beginning to rot. There had to be a link between my activities as Iron Man and my half-elves. Had to be. I won't let it happen again. I can't. All right, come on, computer.
Hold on a second.
Come on. All right, got it. All right, got it. All right. So, Bless, why do I have to be put in this situation? I don't want to let others down, but I'm just not ready to. And then here's the transmission from Hawkeye calling for Wonder Man. Who am I trying to kid? If I didn't want to play superhero anymore, why did I come here in armor? Why didn't I come as just playing Tony Stark? Or better yet, why didn't I phone in Rhodey's resignation? I guess deep down, I still crave the recognition, the glamour, the excitement that being Iron Man gives me. Deep down, I want to regain the respect people used to have for me. Tony Stark may have fallen in some people's eyes, but Iron Man's reputation was never tarnished. So what do? I come waltzing in here, putting myself in a situation where I have to reveal who I am. I must have known a crisis like this might come up. I must have wanted it to force me to play hero again. When am I going to make up my mind what I want to be? So that's the speech we referenced before. That this is about making the unconscious explicit. There is a part of him that does want to still be Iron Man, but there's another part of him that is resisting that move, resisting that identity. Okay, so he ends up breaking down and actually going to help the West Coast Avengers rescue Tigra from Godzilla. And the final issue of this section. What?
Oh, you skipped all the tiger parts. Oh, darn.
I don't want to dance.
This is the final issue of this section, and it ends with Tony carrying Godzilla out to sea and then disappearing.
Read Denny O'Neil's run. If you would like some waifu material, you will get waifus.
Well, I mean, she's not really waifu.
I want to avoid the problematic male gaze. Yeah, that was my intention.
More like material.
What if we're scalies and we like Godzillas? Big hulking Godzilla monsters.
Also, you want to say anything else, Punchy?
Do you know the Godzilla monster thing? I mean, he's not like Fing Fang Foom or anything, right? But is he like a monster of that type, or is there a backstory to him?
Well, it seemed like the bad guy knew who this thing was like proud of being able to take it over, right? Like I feel like in Marvel, just like monsters will show up. There we go. There are kaiju in the Marvel universe, just walking around.
Random one. Oh yeah. Well, my headcanon is he's Godzilla, so that'll be that for me, I guess.
No, not that I am aware of. I could be wrong again, but I am not aware of any backstory.
Okay, so he's just big dinosaur that gets beaten up and driven to extinction.
I think it's just we needed random monster of the week. We needed random monster of the week to force Tony to get into the armor again and be a hero. So.
All right, well, that was fun.
So that's the end of
thoughts on the arc.
Sorry, hello?
I thought it was well handled, but like Rhodey's gradual build up to deep raid, and then even kind of this 183 is a denouement. So by 182, Rhodey and Tony Stark have worked everything out. Tony's comfortable, at least, well, actually starting to get back in the armor again, but still not comfortable in the armor again. So this 183 is sort of like a moment for Tony to get back in the armor and really get himself back into the hero business. Whereas his fight with Rhodey was more about him healing his relationship with Rhodey. So I'm curious. Yeah. I'm curious to when War Machine shows up, and I'm curious to how we get Tony back in the armor permanently.
Right. And so that's coming. Actually, entirely new set of armor is coming in the next set of issues in this run. Ooh, yes. We're going to get a new set of armor, and Bowser is going to come back. We're going to have the final boss fight coming up.
Well, hopefully he gets so long gay Bowser, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Yep.
Marmaduke we get.
But yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But obviously I'm going to agree with number one Marmaduke fan that this entire arc is very well handled. Denny O'Neil has a real talent for emotional complexity in his plots. And it comes through in these issues and all the previous issues that we've covered so far. So that's why, we're really seeing all the reasons why Denny O'Neil's run is my favorite of all of the Iron Man runs.
Yeah, well, I would disagree with both of you. I think it was crap, and I really didn't like it. No, yeah, I mean, I liked it. I agree with both of you. I think it was handled really well. Again, this is kind of what I was getting at on Twitter about. It does seem sudden when the fight comes. But I don't think it was like it wasn't necessarily a demon in the bottle moment. I think it was like midway between demon in a bottle and Tony's descent into alcoholism from earlier in this run. I think it was well built up, and Right Geek. I think I think you did a really good job of getting all the plot points and all the beats to really establish that. Most of my notes from this one were things like the farting machine gun panel and the Brody punching trees down for no reason and the bird pies and stuff, right? Like all the silly moments. But if I had to go back and try and tie it into the overall theme and overall thesis of the cute henchman girl that I got like 8 panels of, which you didn't even mention. But yeah, I think if I had to go back and tie it into the overall theme and thesis of these 10 issues, yeah, I would definitely focus on these little moments between Rhodey and Tony that build up to I hate you, Tony Stark, and then their fight. I do think that their buddy moment goes by a bit too quickly. Like they kind of patch things up a little too fast for my liking. I think in that way it's almost like a demon in bottle kind of thing, like the very special episode where they both punch each other out and then they don't punch each other out. But which ironically enough, I think
but isn't it like that sometimes with some guys?
Yeah, I mean it is. You get someone and then you punch and then you're fine. But still, I mean, just for the sake of a comic, it might be fun to have, more lingering. But I mean, it is believable. But this is a comic. This is a soap opera. This isn't like, this isn't real life, or is it? But I don't know. I mean, it's a little. It's me just trying to find something to gripe about. So I think it was fine.
When we do the 194 to 200 stream, there is going to be a pickup of at least resolving Rhodey's headaches and the armor addiction thing. So it's not like it's all resolved now. The tension between the two of them, but there's still a little bit more to resolve.
The only thing I was surprised they didn't do is they didn't do either like a supervillain zaps Rhodey, right? And the evil rays make him confused or something. Like that's one common type of explanation for why is the hero being such a jerk. I'm surprised they didn't do more with like the angle of Tony claiming the Iron Man armor back from him. Like even if Tony ever said something like, "Man, Rhodey, are you sure you're up to this? I could do it this one time." That would kind of like sell the part of Rhodey. Like, so basically as told by Denny O'Neil, Rhodey's fear of Tony taking the armor back is a completely irrational, baseless fear, right? So I kept expecting kind of like this, well, maybe Tony does want to get back in the armor, but it's more like Rhodey is worried about nothing. Again, he needs a 30-minute conversation with his bro, and that we just have to have the fight to make that happen.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I mean, I think Tony does. He just doesn't realize that he does, right? Like at this point in the story, like he doesn't want to be a superhero again, but he doesn't realize that that's what he wants. So,
yeah, it is. You're right, Punchy. That is in fact the correct analysis. I think. There's as we've been talking about, there's multiple levels going on with both characters. With Rhodey, there's an unconscious underlying resentment, the Blue Falcon thing, along with the kind of conscious insecurity that, oh no, Tony Sober is going to take the armor away from me. And then on Tony's end, there's a fear that if he gets into the armor again, he's going to start drinking again, coupled with guilt because he knows he did leave Rhodey holding the bag, coupled with a very deep unconscious desire to actually get back into the armor again so he can regain his self-respect. So it's so good. It's so rich because there's so many layers going on with both of the characters. Again, this is why I like this run so much, because there is so much going on underneath.
Yeah, but do you think it's problematic though that nobody ever takes him aside and lectures him about white privilege? I mean, yes, you can have some original of the story, but it doesn't have any explicit racism coming from a preachy writer. So, I don't know. Is it enough?
Well, if we're talking about racism, here's the thing. Throughout this whole story, Rhodey is being given respect as a character, right? He's and Tony, the supposedly privileged white guy, is giving him that respect. He's telling him, "Yeah, you're right. You did earn your right to wear this armor. I grant that to you, right?" So just in my view of things, it's the opposite of racist. But of course, we know how the wokies see things. So.
Yeah, well, it's nice that we still have comics like this to go back to and to remember that things haven't always been as crazy and toxic as they are today, and that it's not the 1980s fault that things are so crap. It's it's the millennials that kind of screwed everything up, not this generations. But
so you're taking the boomer side on this, on the generational divide.
Yeah, I mean, sorry to get depressing, but as a millennial myself, I gotta say we really dropped the ball with everything. So yeah, go boomer.
Well, this younger boomer
actually,
or older
people, right?
writing for Marvel at this point. In the 80s, you'd have to be fully grown in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, because he would be he would be Gen X, because he'd have to be.
It'd be Xers, yeah. Xers, some Gen X's, some boomers, and some greatest gens still too. The older ones were still they fought in World War II, so they would be greatest gens, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because that's one of the things that I was thinking about in like the
so it's kind of a mixture.
Like the delay in writing and the way like generations affect the quality and content of the writing for all these comics, right? Because like right now, like nowadays, the millennials are all in their 30s and some of them are pushing 40, right? And they're kind of in the more privileged positions for writers, so they're the guys that are getting making decisions and calling shots and stuff. And the Gen X guys are kind of kicked out of the creative departments and things. So, that's why I think nowadays we've got that kind of sensibility everywhere. But I don't know. That would have to be like a whole stream in and of itself.
We're escaping. We're going in our time machine and we're escaping the madness of diversity, inclusion, and equity in everything.
which is weird. This is a super diverse, super inclusive comic. I mean, it's got kind of equity. I mean, it's got equality. It's got the equality that people deserve, rather than
it's got classical liberal diversity, not communist diversity.
Yeah. It's not got equality of outcome for everybody. It's got everybody has a chance to shine and to do to be the best person that they can be.
I forgot this, but they had a Clytemnestra make this kind of like feminist point of like, look, I'm a girl and I'm a smart girl, right? So for some of the boys in the old boys network, it doesn't really work. So that was her explanation for why she's going out to California to start a business in an empty field with Tony and the gang. But actually it kind of makes sense because she's tired of trying to compete in the male world, in the boy club world. So she's going out and establishing her own thing, which is a very independent thing to do. She's not just like rising up the ranks in someone else's business. She's doing her own.
And in the 80s, that would actually in the 80s that would actually be realistic and salient. I was talking to Marmaduke last night, and it wasn't really an argument, but it was a mild disagreement. I was talking about the whole rapid onset gender dysphoria, and what would be driving it for what would be driving a lot of young girls wanting to be men, essentially. And I said, I think that they have this perception because they've been blasted with feminist propaganda all their lives that being a girl is somehow to be disadvantaged, and if you are a girl, you're not going to be able to do what you want in life. And I said, and I think that's wrong. And then my mom kind of pushed back on me a little bit and said, well, I don't know. I think that there is still a little bit of a boys' club in certain things. And, I think the issue was the generation gap between the two of us, because mom's a boomer, right? And she was actually one of the first women who was admitted to the Naval Academy and actually experienced some of the midshipmen looking at her askance like she didn't belong there. Whereas I grew up in the 80s and 90s and never ever actually felt at any time that anyone was holding me back as a woman. So we were. So I said. So I think what's going on here is we have a generational difference in experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that I would push back on with that is, yes, there are some sort of female to male transgender individuals out there, but you're far more likely to see the opposite, right? Male to females are far more common than female to male. And if it's a question of trying to go to a more privileged gender, getting back to my point about female privilege and everything, I mean, wouldn't it seem as though the female gender was the most privileged, right? Like if you're
that's a whole extreme too.
People go from Mexico.
What if the whole thing is a psyop to get us to start talking about privilege and citizens of power? Yeah,
that's definitely part of it. I mean, the push to normalize it is part of the psyop. Again, putting on my conspiracy theory hat, but I think it's been borne out. But yeah, I don't know. I'd agree with you though, right, Geek? So.
Yeah, well, I was talking about specifically teenage girls wanting to be men, right? What explains the opposite is going to be probably a different scenario, right? But yeah, so anyway, I think we're going to finish off for the night because I need to get some dinner and feed some cats and do all that stuff. So,
okay.
So those of you out there who are listening, tune in for our next stream, in which we will cover our issues 194 to 200, and 200 is when we get the big boss fight. So
remember, gang, trade words with your bros if you don't want to trade fists with your bros.
Yes, exactly.
Or just trade the fists and then you'll be fine afterwards. Just skip the words and just punch each other a few times.
All right. But anyway, thank you very much for listening to those of you who are here live and for those who will be listening asynchronously. And we will catch you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.